very interesting. But first, I want to comment about a couple of things. Hang on, let me pull it up. Yeah, it's hard to get anything working on my computer right now because everything is heckin' slow. Oh wait, hang on, that's wrong. But like when I joined X, it wasn't like, and the fact that I'm being shown all this crap, politics and everything, it gets so draining. It gets so annoying. It's not what I signed up for. I signed up, namely for this, and it's being slow as shit again. Yeah, because I'm trying to promote my stuff. This is called the For You, but this was here before I made the thing. Yeah, no, that's the first time I'm seeing this relatable. Well, like I'm seeing a whole bunch of crap that I did not sign up for, like this shit. I didn't sign up for the politics. The fuck? Okay. But now I'm getting like word of like people being pissed off that the National Guard is in California. Like, uh, no shit. That's where the soldiers are from. It's called the National Guard because they're the guard in California. They enlisted and went to boot camp and then came right back home to their home state. Every state has a National Guard, and that's where they're from. And this isn't the first time the National Guard has been deployed. I mean, hell, Eisenhower had to deploy them just to help black kids get to school in the 1950s. But people being pissed off was like, go home! National Guard, go home! Bitch, they are home! This is their home! They're from here! They're your neighbors! They don't want to be out here just as much as you don't want them out here. It's like, fuck, I gotta do this now? God damn it. I just wanted to get that off my chest because people are so fucking stupid. But there's a few videos I've got to watch. First video I want to show is that apparently there's a rumor that the guy that Warner, no, I'm sorry, not Warner, HBO cast to play the new Severus Snape in the new upcoming Harry Potter series. Apparently he's either being fired or he's resigning or something like that. There's no confirmation as far as I know, but I've seen it posted on YouTube. I've seen a few things online, but nothing really confirmed. So let's check it out because this is Movie Flame. He's like one of, if not the uh, biggest Harry Potter YouTubers. So let's check it out.
What is going on, everybody? So my goal on this channel right now is to keep you guys updated on everything to do with the HBO Harry Potter TV series. And right now, there is a rumor floating around that Papa Essiedu, who was cast as Snape, could be sacked. As of
Yeah, see, even he confirmed. Well, not he confirms it. He states it's a rumor, but yeah, that's what I've been seeing too. And some people are saying that he's getting sacked because of something that is involving J.K. Rowling. I'm not sure, or he's leaving because of J.K. Rowling. I There's no confirmation yet, but let's be honest here. He was not the right choice for Snape because a lot of things that Snape does, Snape represents, and what happened to Snape does not look good if you put a black character, if you put a black actor in there. Oh, he was hung upside down from a tree when he was in high school by three white kids, or four white kids, I'm sorry, the Marauders. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Then he's also about, blood purity, which sounds like race purity. It's like, what the fuck is happening? This does not sound like something you'd want to put for this. And then, of course, there's the fact that the kids, fellow wizards and witches, always find that Snape is a problem child. It's like, this just sounds like it's a bad idea. Why would you do this?
Right now, this is just a rumor. It is not confirmed, but I wanted to jump on here and just give my thoughts because I have a lot of opinions about this. And also, I want to read you some other people's opinions, as well as hear your guys' opinions in the comment section below. So, here's a post from a page called Harry Potter Universe, one of the biggest Twitter...
Oh, God. What really sucks is that I gotta do this. There is a rumor floating out there that Papa, I think is his name, S.U. who was cast to play Snape in the Harry Potter TV series, may be recast and will not play Snape anymore. This has not been confirmed and is just rumor as of now. I hope this rumor ends up being true and they cast someone else who actually looks like Snape. From what I've heard, S.U. is a fantastic actor, but he does not resemble Snape at all, which is a massive problem. While watching the series, I personally would not be able to convince myself that he is Snape because there is no resemblance to how Snape is described in the books. And that's a big issue considering how important Snape's role is to the story. Instead, why not cast him in a different role? He's a great actor, and I can see him playing Kingsley Shacklebolt, which is what I was saying. I said that too. Cast him as Kingsley. You can make a character like him play Kingsley Shacklebolt because Kingsley is, he's a black guy, but he's a powerful Auror. He's an ally of Dumbledore and the wizarding world. He's not racist. He's not prejudiced like a lot of purebloods are. He becomes the Minister of Magic, the most powerful man in at least the British wizarding community, as their leader. He also works to establish, some sort of proper grounds. He takes away a lot of these stigmas that have been around for over 1,000 years in the wizarding world. He gets rid of the whole pureblood status thing, like that's important or anything like that. He's like, no, that doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. There are plenty of powerful witches and wizards who are half-bloods. There are plenty of powerful witches and wizards that are muggle-borns. Kingsley, he could play a good Kingsley. Now, granted, he won't be seen until the 5th season for Order of the Phoenix, but still, casting him as Snape was just bringing a whole bunch of problems like, oh, you do realize that we have to make the kids suspicious of him, and it's going to seem like they're suspicious of him because he's black. Well, that's not good. And then you got to point out that in a flashback, you got to point out that James, Harry's father, hangs him upside down from a tree. Let me repeat that. Hangs him upside down from a tree. What part of that is a good idea? Like, that is not a good idea at all. So, like, yeah, if anything, have him say, like, okay, so we can't use you for Snape because it's going to be bad, but let's use you for Kingsley.
Their Harry Potter pages, they have like 400,000 followers, almost 500. And this is what he had to say. There is a rumor floating out there that Papa Essiadu, who was cast to play Snape in the Harry Potter TV series, may be recast and will not play Snape anymore. This has not been confirmed and is just a rumor as of now. I hope this rumor ends up being true and that they cast someone else who...
But they don't really go into, like, I just forgot to bring this up, but they don't really go into detail for why he wasn't a good idea for Snape on this tweet, or why he could be a good Kingsley. So I had to bring it up.
Actually looks like Snape. From what I've heard, Essiadu is a fantastic actor, which I've actually covered. I'm just going to play the clip of me covering his acting abilities, just a little bit of it.
Blood! Do you think I'm easier to be preyed upon than a pipe?
But getting back to the tweet.
That's a lot of... Sounds like he's spitting a lot.
After he says Essiadu is a great actor, he says he does not resemble Snape at all, which is a massive problem. While watching the series, I personally would not be able to convince myself that he is Snape because there is no resemblance to how Snape is described in the books, and that's a big issue considering how important Snape's role in the story is. Instead, why not cast him in a different role? He is a great actor, and I could see him playing Kingsley Shacklebolt, for example. He would be perfect, and it's a role that makes complete sense.
What's with that fucking sigh? He could make a good Kingsley.
It does not make complete sense, and that is honestly one of the worst takes I have ever heard.
Okay, why? I'm pausing it because I'm just going to ask the question. Why is this a bad take? The only problem I have with the take is that they point out that he just doesn't look the part. Which, yeah, Snape's already been described in the books, and I've already pointed out why he could be a good Kingsley Shacklebolt. If he's a good actor, he can probably portray Kingsley. But if you're trying to fit the stigmata of, you know, oh, you just want a black man to play a black man, that's what's been the argument for Hollywood for the past, like, few years. Like, oh, we can't have, even for voice acting, it's like, oh, we can't have a white person play a black person in voice acting world. We can't have a non-gay gay actor play a gay character. But what is wrong with him playing Kingsley in Order of the Phoenix?
Let me break this down for you. So you want Papa Essiedu to be sacked from being one of the main characters in the series, and then you want HBO and Warner Brothers to offer him the role of a side character who just so happens to be one of the only black characters.
No, that's not what we're saying at all. You were reaching for that one, my guy. That is not what was being stated at all. It's the fact that he could play Kingsley. I don't see him playing Dean. He's too old to play Dean. He's not there to play Lavender. One, he's a man. Two, we don't even know who they're going to cast to play Lavender, if it's going to be a black girl or a white girl. As there was no real, like, discernation as to what Lavender looked like. We're not expecting him to play Blaze Zabiniya because, again, he's too old. If your argument is because we should sack him because he's black, you had a problem with him playing Snape.
And a character that would not show up until season 5, at least 5 years into the series. What are we doing, guys? And
that's not a good explanation as to why it's a bad take. Yeah, he'd have to wait 5 seasons, which could be 5 to 6 years down the road. But the argument is that you want him to play a character who's perceived as a bad guy. You want him to portray a character that is perceived, you know, he's looked upon negatively. But then you're saying he shouldn't play a character who's seen in a very positive light. Kingsley is one of the most popular characters, even if he is a side character, because he's popular. Like no shot you think that it's a terrible take because you want him to go from a main character to a side character. A main character that he doesn't look like would be a massive problem to see in, to see how he's treated and how he acts. It's going to be creepy to see, you know, him as a teenager basically trying to chase, like he's like harboring all these emotions, this for a woman who doesn't love him. The fact that the main trio thinks that he's a bad guy, even when he does things to save them, they still don't look at him in a positive light. And then again, being hanged upside down from a tree. Like, do you not get that?
And this is one of, like, the biggest Twitter Harry Potter accounts. I guess you could make Kingsley appear in, like, season 1 and have Essiedu make an appearance, but just think about this, guys. If Essiedu is fired when he got the role of a lifetime, he's going to feel absolutely devastated and betrayed. So why the hell would he agree to come back and play a side character? Much less a side character that was assigned to him because...
That's the rumor isn't that he's like... There's a rumor that he might not be on the show. We don't know if it's fired or if he's leaving. Not only that, but if he's fired, they're not going to fire him because he doesn't fit the role. They're going to fire him for something he probably has done outside that makes it look bad. I mean, I hear that Rachel Zegler is currently in a pretty shitty position. I think she's currently getting sacked from a current film that she's working on because she's a nightmare to deal with. Hang on. Yeah, I think it's She Gets It From Me is a character, is a movie she's supposed to be in. But hang on. No, not the Snow White one. There were videos about it. This is BBC, but I'm gonna take that as a grain of salt. Yeah, this is all about Disney. She's supposed to be working on a film right now, but she's so toxic that they're trying to get her removed from it. But Morgan, you're doing a lot of reaching here.
Because of the color of his skin. When I break it down like that, I hope you guys see that that is just so disrespectful and such a terrible take. So I actually did give my thoughts to this on Twitter. I said, I know we're upset about this casting, but this would be a effed up thing to do by HBO and Warner Brothers. You gave him the biggest part of his...
You're saying it would be the most fucked up thing to do, but there's nothing on here. It's a rumor that says he might be sacked. And it doesn't elaborate any further. You don't know if he is getting sacked. You don't know why. I guarantee you, it has nothing to do with his skin color. This is my problem with a lot of people. They just try to reach for conclusions that are probably not true. Recommendation, wait until the information has come out fully. Because there's rumors that he's leaving himself.
Career, you can't just strip it away. That being said, they shouldn't have cast him in the first place. That was their first F up. Plain and simple, dude, this is just one of the dumbest things I have ever seen a studio do. You have put yourself between a rock and a hard place. Either you destroy the heart of an actor who got the role of a lifetime and thought that this was his big break, or you have a Black Snape in the series and make a huge number of your fans boycott the show that you have already put billions of dollars into with sets and all of the other stuff. It's just so bad, dude. Like, how did they do this? Why did they make this choice? Because of one decision, it could ruin a show or it could ruin an actor.
Let's see what the comments are saying. Yeah, they created a new character in movie 3. He was like a Nigerian actor. A lot of these people are believing, like... Yeah, I just can't believe the rumor simply the fact that he's contracted in. The only way an actor can be fired is they did something horrible. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, so... Like, there's not really much to fucking say when it comes to that, but the idea that we're reaching for this, this whole idea that he's being fired because he's black, it's not stated. Well, that's pretty much it for Morgan. Let's check this one out. Fucking shit. There we go.
Up way more than I thought. Yeah, this got really out of control yesterday on Twitter, and so I suppose let's talk about it.
So, in case you guys don't know, the
Oh, yeah. Denim posted screenshots of Tectone in her DMs, basically asking if she wants to, like, kind of mend bridges and play a video game together. And she took it in a direction that it was not going to. And then when she posted it, he commented on her post, "Are we still going to game?" So it didn't look good for her.
the largest, her words, not mine. I don't know. I don't know political streamers. I don't care. I know some names like Denims and Hassan. I would hardly consider Asmongold a political streamer, to be completely honest. You know, I just think he doesn't really talk about politics. He's like, oh, dude, look at that. Trump's being funny again. Oh, dude, true, dude. Yep, you know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Anyways, oh, God, cockroaches. Is he really a political commentator? I don't really think so. To me, he's always just going to be a gamer. I mean, to be honest, that's the videos that I watch of him. You know, I mean, like, if you do the politics, you do whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And it's not that I have anything against him. I just like Asmongold because I just think it's fascinating how he's a multimillionaire and he lives in garbage. And I will never
It's called frugal spending.
understand why he does that. And after doing a podcast with him for 2 years and being a part of an org with him for 3 years, and me saying, hey, man, you want me to, like, help you out with that? He's like, no, I just won't look at it. I'm like, all right. Okay, well, then I suppose you do your thing then, brother. Anyways, there was a female on the internet. Her name is Denims. She's been, well, I would personally say, pretty damn obsessed with me and my life. And if you don't believe me now, well, let me just paint the groundwork. So first of all, she has rated me about 3 times before I even knew her. She was frequent in my chat before I even knew her.
Wait, was she a fan or was she just a hate watcher?
I have some chat logs. I would give you guys the full logs, but unfortunately,
Hi, playing I can never play with another MMO, Sag, Aware, or the STD. This stream is crazy. That sounds like she was a fan.
I am banned on Twitch. But in 2 days, I would love to go over them again. If anybody doubts anything that I'm saying, it's very easy. And just to show you proof, I actually cannot access them because I am still locked out of Twitch, even though they appealed my ban and approved it, which is just, you know, that's just so good. So Denims has been going in on me, calling me ugly, fat, bald, which I think are funny. She calls me loud. She calls me annoying, which I think are funny. But the words that I have a problem with is when she calls me a sexual predator. Calls me a sex pest, a predator, a rapist, an abuser. I mean, calls my father a rapist when there's literally court documents disproving that rapes ever happened. It just didn't fucking happen. I mean, to be honest, I don't even think rapes were even discussed. I don't know where they got that from, but I think these political streamers just really just love throwing the rape word around, which is great because you guys are making it so good for real rape victims to get sympathy. It's great. Yep, just keep on watering down the word. Why don't we use the words correctly when we're supposed to be looked as figureheads in the political space? We should use the proper terminology. If someone sexually harassed someone, they're a sexual harasser. If someone sexually assaulted someone, they're a sexual assaulter. If someone rapes someone, they're a rapist. Hope this helps. Let's use the right terminologies. It's really cool. You want to say, is this really the hill he wants to die on? Yes. We should use proper terminology and proper descriptors when describing someone, when that is your job, when that is how you pose yourself as. And that's why, Denims, I call you a whore. And yes, Brogan, that's why I call you fat. And if you don't believe me about everything that I say about Denims, well, just wait, because we got some leaked DMs. It's going to be great. Anyways, Denims used to raid me a lot, was in my chat quite often. It was, you know what, it was all things pretty nice.
Yeah, it sounded like she was a fan. And then you apparently said or did something she was not a fan of, and then she decided to go on a hate train.
But then the whole issue with my ex happened, and then all of a sudden she's now claiming that they were best friends when, Denims, I don't even believe that you two spoke before any of the controversy came out. And do you want to know why that is? That's because you don't care about victims of SA, victims of rape. You just want to find stories that you can weaponize. And if you don't believe me on that, just wait, because I got a clip on that too. And this is just going to be great. So, Denims leaks my DMs. And this is something that I usually never needs to be done unless things really get out of hand. and she leaks some DMs, and I'm not gonna lie, my career really took a toll. She really exposed me here. She did. She really exposed me. She says this: going to make a special exception and share these DMs with Tectone to the public.
Oh yeah, I know.
Do with this info what you will.
Yep, I saw him.
And she leaks my DMs. Guys, a tale as old as time. How many times have people leaked my DMs? Many times. How many times did they make me look bad? Fucking zero. Do you think these DMs are going to do anything of the contrary? Well, let's find out.
Yeah,
so she leaked our DMs.
Yeah, you want to play some Marvel Rivals sometimes on January 17th, and then a minute later. I know we've had poor interactions in the past, but we both said some pretty awful shit to one another, but I kind of don't want to hold grudges on people anymore. All good, if not. Nothing controversial there. He's literally just trying to mend bridges.
And here's what I said, and these are the entirety of our DMs. January 17th. Yo, you want to play Marvel Rivals sometime? 1 minute later. I know we've had poor interactions in the past, and we've both said pretty awful shit to one another, but I kind of don't want to hold grudges on people anymore. All good, if not. What do we think, guys? Yeah, maniac behavior right there, right?
What a creep.
Abusive behavior, right?
What
I
a
know,
monster.
Permaban. Really nasty stuff. You're cooked. Context of these DMs, the situation that I'm in of being lied about nonstop, it got to me. It did. I was in the hospital. The doctor said I was far too stressed, and I needed to just handle my stress levels. So I said, you're right. This shit's getting way too crazy. I've been pretty ugly. I deserve a lot of the harassment that I'm getting. Other people have been pretty ugly towards me. Maybe it's not about content for them. Maybe it's actually just about doing the right thing. And I said, fuck it. Even though these people have fucked with me relentlessly over situations they don't understand, maybe I can bury the hatchet. I sent this DM to multiple people, by the way, attempting to just bury.
It took her 6 months to post that, by the way. Almost 6 months. He literally sent her a DM in January. Wait, was it even January this year?
Context of these, it did. Just handle my ugly. It's not really nasty.
No, it was January this year. So she waits until June to post them.
Hatchet, because for me, you might call me a drama channel. I really have no interest in drama unless I feel like it's me doing the right thing. That's it. Sure. Do I get into a lot of problems?
I'm not like
because
Nux.
there's
I
a
don't
lot of
feed
fucked
on the
up things
chaos.
happening on the internet.
I just like.
But this thing
let
between me and
my
Denim
words
is
be
just
told.
not content. It's boring. It's ugly. It's destructive. It's hurtful to real victims. And I'm going to be real. Once people understand that, once again, Pink was lying about what she did, this is going to make actual victims even harder to take seriously. And this is why women who make false allegations should be punished fucking severely. Because, and Denims, by the way, like I was willing to just actually tell you my side with proof. I wasn't even going to fucking ask you to take my word for anything. I was actually going to say, fuck it. I was going to get rid of my paranoia. I was just going to say, hey, I will show you everything. I'll talk to you. I don't care. Because, dude, and this is once again, me probably being stupid. Maybe there's a part where Denims isn't evil. Maybe she's just really fucking stupid. And maybe she's like actually not immune to reason. And maybe we just let the police do their job. But instead, she goes live and shows these of me being a very reasonable person and attempts to weaponize it. So I respond with, guys, Denims leaked that I'm a reasonable, forgiving person before she started calling me a rapist. Am I cooked? Yeah, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. It was pretty rough. 14,000 likes on this tweet, including my own, of course, and only 310,000 views. With public perception on my channel being, oh no, you try to be the bigger man and put aside your differences despite having totally different outlooks in the world. While she wants to live in an echo chamber and verge into their tolerant audience. You're an evil fucking animal. I know, right? Didn't she build her career off defending rapists and denying rape? I'm confused. And if you don't know the context of that, well, man, why don't we get into that? Let's talk about example number one. Denims, you do not care about victims. You look forward to weaponizing any story you can to make thine enemies weaker. However, if one of your friends fucks up, Hassan, which I know you've been sucking his dick daily, you will go to any length to defend.
Apparently Hassan's in LA right now with all those riots going on.
His actions as well as your own. So, in case you guys don't know, there were actual rape victims that are documented, that there has been proof of. And do you want to see how Denims talks about them when them being raped goes against their friend's story? Well, why don't we just go into the time machine, Denims? Because I hate to tell you that.
Look at that, we got a react section. He's reacting to who I think is Destiny, reacting to Denim, reacting to Ethan. And here I am reacting to him, reacting to Destiny, reacting to Denim, reacting to Ethan. This react-ception goes deep.
All the content you're making on the internet, it's public. So why don't we go into all this shit right here, guys?
This is a 17-year-old.
Oh, and by the way, this is Destiny.
I knew it.
People may not like him. I think he has a way with words. And Denims frequently calls Ethan a Destiny orbiter. Well, I got some screenshots for you guys to really show who the real orbiter is, or as I like to call, Horbiter, because she tries to fuck people to get collabs. All right, cool. Let's get in here. Let's keep going.
Whose family was murdered in front of her, and she was kidnapped for 50 days and continually raped while being in captivity. Nothing to say? Nothing? You're not gonna fucking acknowledge what just happened?
I will acknowledge what just happened. This woman who you claim...
Oh, Denims, you just sound so professional. Look at you. You're just so professional. You're handling this so well. Look at this. You're putting on my I'm serious now voice. Let me tell you how Denims debates.
The fact that he has to go through Destiny to watch Denims is weird.
Don't get me wrong, guys. I was doing a little bit of detective research. I committed the grave sin of actually consuming a Denim stream. Ugh. Gulp. That was a fate worse than fucking death. Let me tell you how she goes about addressing her controversy. If the person makes a good point, she ignores it entirely and continues letting the video play. Or she will laugh and say that it's untrue without providing any rebuttal whatsoever besides a mere laugh. Then she will take any opportunity to pull up old clips of these people to try to make fun of their appearance or make fun of their looks. Completely unrelated jabs, nothing demonstrating the underlying issue with the supposed behavior that she's saying that they have. And then she will misrepresent the person's argument and argue points that were not discussed whatsoever. And
Sorry,
the
my
good
best
news
friend
is,
was
as
in the group
long as
chat
she
texting.
says, chat, we should all be blah-ha-haing. And yes, I'll be real. Her chat was roasting the fuck out of her, and so she had to instruct the exact behavior that she wanted them to do, because Denims, when you also see the replies to your tweet, brother, you got fucked harder than you wanted to get fucked by Destiny in those replies, brother. And no amount of likes matters because all those motherfuckers are brainwashed Hassan viewers. You know you got fucked hard. Let's keep going here.
was continually raped in captivity, did not claim to have been raped.
Oh!
And liars claim it too, and then they're proved wrong. She's basically out here saying she didn't claim she was raped. Okay, well, there are several rape victims who don't because they're terrified or they just want to forget.
And guys, she's talking so seriously. She's talking so genuinely. She must be right. She's definitely not just a fucking idiot. Well, unfortunately, guys, we got about 1:40 left in this clip, so let's get into it.
כל פעם שפגשתי מישהו היה לפחות מישהי או מישהו אחד שחוו התעללות מינית והתעללות פיזית. כמעט, כאילו חצי מהם.
In that interview, she says that at least half the hostages she spoke to said they were sexually assaulted. At no point did she claim that anything had happened to her, and to my knowledge so far, no hostages have given first-hand accounts of being sexually assaulted in captivity.
Oh, well, Denims, even I watched the full interview. And if you would have let the video play just a little bit longer, you'd know this too. However, just like you did in a prior situation, you only read half the article. Just like when you said you can do whatever you want to children, as long as they're below the ages of 3 and 4, they won't remember the travesties that you commit to them. Yeah, you remember that? You remember that? When you said you could do that to children, you can do anything you want to children as long as they're not above the age 4. Remember that? That's what you said. That is what you said. And how apropos is it that the woman who used to draw lolly porn is saying that about kids? Now, I just want you guys to know, what do you think the next clip is going to be played? It's going to say? Why don't we just go look? Here we go.
Mida.
Now I remember thinking, now is the moment. Something, what you thought about is gonna happen. And then I remember I turned around. He was standing with his gun, and the gun was pointed out.
So this is why he's watching Destiny, because this gets popped up to fact check Denim. Got
at
it.
me, and he was huffing and breathing heavily, and he had a face like a monster, like a beast, like this. So I stood up and held a blanket, a small blanket, to cover myself, and he came towards me and just pointed the gun really hard at my forehead, screaming at me, take it off, and punching me until I could not hold the towel anymore. And he started touching me, and I resisted, and then he dragged me to the bedroom. And then he forced me to commit a sexual act on him.
That's awful.
No hostages have given first-hand accounts of being sexually assaulted in captivity.
Do you want to know why you're
That's awful. That is awful.
such a disgusting, pathetic, stupid retard, Denims? Because you don't care about any of these atrocities that have affected these victims of real instances of rape. You never cared. You want to know why? Because if you did, that would have made your daddy Hassan look bad. And oh man, you couldn't have that. You don't care about victims. You don't care about the stories. You only weaponize them to further your own career as well as your daddy's. You're a disgusting human being, and may God have mercy on your soul. Now, if you thought that it couldn't possibly get any worse than that, guys, I don't even think we're halfway done. Why don't we continue? Oh, and by the way, guys, we may have a follow-up because I have received some crazy DMs, but even I don't feel stooping that low to even talking about these. But I'm telling you, I could say much worse shit. However, I have no interest in doing that. So let's continue
I'd say
going
fucking
here.
full send.
Let's continue going. So that was another response by Blue Voldemort, Nuxtaku. Given the accusation
Blue Voldemort, I forgot that's what he's called sometimes.
she's making, I was expecting the DMs to be dick pics and you asking to see her booty hole. Yeah, no, I'm good. Absolutely not. So she's calling you out for trying to squash any beef. She's so fucking weird, man. I followed it up by saying maybe she wasn't excited about Marvel Rivals. So I just
Mario
followed
Kart
up
World.
today and I said, maybe would you prefer Mario Kart instead? Great game, great game. So these are just my replies.
I saw it. I saw him.
For Mario Kart instead?
Hang on. It's AC. How fascist of you.
Great game, great game. So these are just my replies.
Oh, nothing like a
Why
good-
don't we look
If AC commented on one of my posts on X, or if he posted on a video of mine on YouTube, that'd be like, oh shit.
at hers? Because obviously the people on my chat are going to be on my side. The people on her chat are going to be on her side, and then we'll show a neutral party. So let's keep going here. So this is Denim spamming her timeline, praying to God to just drown out any of the mental retardation she caused to herself. Another self-own that Hassan Abi must have really taught you how to do here. And here's the tweet. 27,000 likes, by the way. 27,000 likes and 1.1 million views. And I want everybody here to understand that if you are of sound mind, you understand that these DMs that she leaked make me look amazing. But the people in her stupid ass community are so fucking dumb that 27,000 people like that shit. There's a word for it. Yeah, it's called fucking blatant botting. And you know that's blatant botting because when I scroll through all of my replies, for some reason, everybody who liked the post is saying, yeah, Techie, you're right. Now, here's my question. What do you guys think the top comments are going to be on?
They're probably commenting about how hot she is. I'm not making any bets. I'm just going to say that that's probably my guess.
Her post. So she makes a follow-up tweet saying she's so obsessed with me and even reached out to play Fortnite with me. I expose his lies. She never exposed the lies. That's why she didn't include anything of her exposing lies. That's just like, when the fuck did you expose my lies? What was I lying about? This person said this in parentheses, and then I totally freaking...
You probably lied about saying you had a beautiful, luscious head of hair. I only say that because as a fellow bald man, we can lie about that. They'll never know.
Owned him. I must not have seen that. I must not have seen that. Oh, and by the way, Denims, these are your logs, by the way. These are your logs after you rated me last year. Look at that. And the first thing that you want to talk about is STDs. Man, why don't we just go ahead and get our mind out of the gutter, huh? Why don't we get our mind out of the gutter? Let's keep going.
What were you streaming that she was commenting about STDs?
Here, guys, let's keep going here. Wow, this is what men give for me trying to extend an olive branch. Sorry, I'm not interested in olive branches with people who sexually abuse my friends. Plural? And speak about women this way.
You got more than one?
And so then she links a clip of me. Once again, she says this is me sexually assaulting her. She says this is sexual assault. Let's go ahead and read this. All right, here we go. Let's see what horrible thing I said. Denims talks about you. Dude, I only watch Denims clips offline. Yeah, with my pants off. Yeah, I can't watch those on stream. Yeah, it just shouldn't bother.
Speaking shit, it's funny.
You take offense to a very obvious joke when the first message you type in my chat is about STDs. And I'm sorry that I said, oh, dude, the only good content Denims has on our OnlyFans. I literally give you a plug. I literally hook you up. I gave you a plug.
Ow.
I gave you a fucking plug,
God,
bro.
Snap, crackle, pop.
And you're going to hold that against me? Man, I probably made you at least $5,000 off that shit. The least you could do is say fucking thank you. Like, damn, bro. What the fuck? I mean, that's a very harmless joke. Hey, Denims is talking shit about you. I don't care. She has an OnlyFans. I'm going to move on. OnlyFans detected. Opinion rejected. Moving on. I didn't even want to bother with it. Once again, I send a DM saying, hey, we've both said nasty shit. Let's move on. Brings it up into my chat again. I don't feel like dealing with it. I don't care what she said. OnlyFans detected, opinion rejected. Moving on. And we are still here. We are still here. I have tried to move forward, not once, but now documented 2 fucking times. And your obsessed ass is still talking about me. Why? Is it because I'm just so damn sexy?
Yeah. But it helps me. Makes my streams not so boring.
Is it because I'm so fine? I don't know what it is. You probably hear my voice and it probably causes you buckets. But let's keep going here. She responds with this little tweet and I respond with, so we gonna play or what? Smash JT types, were you trying to look good here? Lamau. Him asking you to play, this is in reference to Denims, by the way. Him asking you to play Marvel Rivals doesn't equal being obsessed with you. Think before you sleep says, bro just wants to game with a fellow Twitch streamer. It's not that big of a deal. Another person says, so Tectone decided to be a bigger man and settle a grudge drama.
Yeah, I read these. I was like, I wonder what is going on in hers. Oh yeah, by the way, I was wrong. I thought they were going to comment about how hot she is. Apparently, they were on his side.
So he was the first one to step forward to do the right. Denims TV, you were just an undateable and obnoxiously miserable cunt. Not sorry. I don't even know who the fuck.
I think honestly, I really fucking hate that X. Like, I created a brand new X account solely because I thought I could get away from the bullshit. But all it is fucking politics. And I'm like, I did not pick this shit. If it was up to me, it'd just be fucking video games, Pokemon, anime, tokusatsus, all that shit. But no, I get fucking slapped in the face. Politics, and it's so fucking annoying. And it's like, how do I get rid of this shit?
This guy is. I did give him a follow, though, because I was like, oh, anybody who says good things about me, I like him. And your biggest supporter was Manic Pixie Dreamalo, a girl who has 1,000 followers, called Attention Whore, internet cryptid, often.
The biggest drama that I personally have is the fact that I follow the X account streamer bans to figure out who's been banned. And if I see a VTuber, 9 times out of 10, they were banned because their model showed hips. And they're banned for like 2 weeks to a solid fucking month. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. So I left Twitch altogether for that shit. I was like, dude, fuck Twitch. They're going to ban these people because their models are too fucking sexy? Like, aren't there literally women who get in hot tubs and like with pasties on their nipples? That's it. And they don't get banned? Like, goddamn.
Crash, and they say, girl, what? And if you think that's bad, that you have no supporters on your replies, why don't we go even further? Why don't we look at the quote retweets? Here's 2 comments right off the rip. So this motherfucker tried squabbling the beef with you and you tried to put him on blast. Holding your hands while I say this, Tectonic might be onto something about you. The next comment by Jay Viper. You are retarded. This doesn't do what you think it does.
I find it hilarious that we brought back the word retarded in 2025. Just out of nowhere, it was gone for like 7 to 8 years. Like, you can't say that. And now in 2025, everybody's just pulling it back. Like, nah, we gotta bring it back. Fifi sounds familiar. What's the full name? Hang on, Ryan. I'm gonna get myself banned on Twitch. Look at these hips. Look at them. All reliable, yeah. Fifi, I'm not finding her on X. Hang on. There's like 1 million people with the name Fifi on X. Let me see if I can find him on YouTube. I swear, I think she sounds familiar. Where the fuck is XXX that fuckhead on here? Oh no, I'm sorry, that's not X. That's Tech. Oh yeah, I know about her. But she has like, oh wait. Okay, she has like a pixie cut for like her VTuber model. Cov Fifi. What the fuck? I went on YouTube and looked that up, and all it popped up is, it popped up news things from like a decade ago. I saw Donald Trump, and I'm like, I don't think he's a fucking a VTuber. You think I'm banned on Twitch yet? Oh shit. Showing all that hip for you.
makes you look extremely petty. Common Tectone W, which, by the way, I also gave him a...
Damn, not enough skin. It's unfortunate. Unfortunately, my character doesn't have a no clothes option. Honestly, when you look at him, if you look at him closely, especially around his chest, you realize he doesn't even have a body. He's just see-through.
Follow because I follow anybody who says Tectone W. I'm very easy to please. I'm like Kai Cenat. Denims, you got fucking railed. And you know what's crazy? We still have another perspective to go through, Denims. Yes, unfortunately, your spanking is not done yet. So then a neutral party weighs in on the matter by the name of Yeet.
I mean, hang on. Like, look at me. Not an epidermis to show. I'm not even on the screen. Hang on. There we go. There's not an epidermis to show you. Oh shit, hang on. I didn't fix that. And there we go.
20,000. And he posts our feud with no context and completely fair to both sides.
I kind of want to go back to my artist and try and see if I can get the potion changed color and see if I can get my chest piece changed like to maybe a darker shade. Because unfortunately the green screen fucks me. Oh, I was looking for... Hang on. Now I just saw your thing. Yeah, I don't think she's on X either. No, I'm not seeing her. Don't close that.
Tectone and Denims are going at it on the timeline after she leaked DMs from January 2025 of him asking to play a game and hash out the beef.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Yeet.
My response, Denims leaked that I'm a reasonable, forgiving person before she started calling me a blank, blank, blank criminal. Very easy. There is no poisoning the well. There is no bad faith arguments. This is merely just reporting a factual recollection of what actually happened. And why don't we go through the comments? Oh, don't worry. We have something big to show. Don't want to spoil that yet. We have Donut Operator.
Hey, Donut. Yeah, see, hang on. I want to see... No, yes. There are funny stories. So let's see. Quite a few are from Tectone when he was on the show. A couple of them about the Buffalo school problem that Angry Cops brought up. Oh yeah, the American flag that was flown during the time of John Paul Jones because they had no idea what to make of the American flag. They're like, "What country are you from? The United States? What does that flag look like? Red, white, blue, stars, spangle them bitches on there."
This Scottish guy.
Hang on. Hold on, Ryan sent me something. My buddy sent me something. The towers that are using my fucking Wi-Fi are absolute dog ass right now. So it's probably going to be a bit before that loads, but look at these beautiful men.
This Scottish guy that was a merchant marine and then killed one of his crewmen because they tried to have a mutiny.
Chan.
And then he knew he wasn't going to get a fair trial, so he fled to America. And then that was like right when the revolution was kicking off. So he's like, and I'll volunteer for the Continental Navy. And he does. And he ends up being present in when they attack a new province, which is basically the Bahamas. And they launch this guerrilla raid to like seize a bunch of gunpowder and shit. and then he does really good. So they end up giving him a ship, and basically just give him the orders of like, hey, go fuck with the British. So he's
Yeah, because I looked up Cov Fifi and a whole bunch of just random shit popped up on X and on fucking YouTube.
sails across the ocean and launches raids on England. And he's like the first person to like make an attack on mainland England, like 700 fucking years since the Vikings did it. And it's just a fucking shit show of a story. Like,
wait, when it was, they were trying to go after America, and he's like, "Fuck this, I'm gonna."
yeah, well, I mean, and that's why it was a brilliant strategy, because it's like
no one's gonna expect that.
He's back there, they're undefended, so he's terrorizing England. So they're having to send back like a huge portion of their navy to go patrol to make the citizenry feel safe. So it like it did just this massively disproportionate effect of like he just took out fucking 2 fleets from the British Navy that are no longer allowed to like interrupt America's business and like patrol their coasts and shit. Because
Ryan, have you tried Wuthering Waves? This game? Yeah, I got 26 hours in it. That's too sexy. We can't show that. There's a fucking dragon you have to fight? Oh, damn. Yeah, it is. Oh god, look at all the damage. Oh, she's level 90, okay. I mean, it's not bad, but apparently I found out that you can't really, there's no, like, character customization, which I found disappointing. I was like, I'd like to edit my character, and they're like, no, you can't do that, and I was like, fuck. Why?
because they have to now go back and guard their home turf.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah, you're going in. It's like you're bat gating.
And he was like, the whole time he was like,
up cities.
straight up guerrilla warfare mindset. He's like, all right, we're gonna go in, and this is where this town stores all the coal for the entire region. We're gonna go in there and burn down all their coal reserves. It's like the shit he was planning. He's like, we'll see how much they care about owning the new colonies when they're cold all winter. Like, dude was legit as fuck.
Which is also like, just imagine just on the logistics alone, back in, you know, the late 1700s, having to take all of those ships and manpower and everything to the Americas and then immediately send them back.
And what were you waiting for? Message.
Yeah.
Of, hey, we're getting fucked up over here. Someone went behind us and is now attacking our cities.
How many hundreds of dudes and how many, you know, months of time did you just burn, and ships?
It's like 2 months.
Well, and he's like, his whole thing was like, he had Marines. So, because I mean, it was right when the Marine Corps got started at a Ton Tavern, and like he exploited the out of having Marines. So like his ships, America couldn't build a big warship, like they didn't have it. So like the USS Ranger was like 18 guns, which wasn't shit. Like a big ship back then was like 42, 50 gun ship. He's got like 18. So he's just got this little fast ship with Marines.
Hang on, I'm trying to make some edits right now.
But he just fucking covered the deck in those little swivel guns, the little tiny cannons, and muskets. And he's like, all right, here's a plan, boys. We're just gonna gun it and fucking crash into them. And as soon as we crash, tie our ship to theirs, and we're gonna go fuck them up. And like he caught the USS, or not the USS, the HMS Serapis, which is like an actual British warship. It's like the only time somebody had ever commandeered a British warship that should have outclassed him. He's like, nah, fuck you. Pulls up next to him, ties his boat to his, and the Marines just go out there and beat the fuck out of everybody. His ship sank. That wasn't the Ranger. That was the Bomb Richard was his ship at the time. His ship ends up sinking because the British are just blowing holes in it, but all the Marines are on their ship, so
Let's
they just
see if that
took
works.
their f***ing ship.
The Bonhomme Richard or the Bomb Richard?
Bonhomme Richard. It's the French version of Bottom Richard, which was Ben Franklin's pen name during the Revolutionary Warfare bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, poor
Okay.
Richard was what he like wrote his alias or whatever that he wrote his names under, so that's what the ship was named after. So that ship sinks, but they took over the HMS Serapis.
It didn't
and
pop.
he basically had to go and dock it inside of a Dutch port, which was neutral territory. So the British had all these warships just waiting outside the Dutch harbor for him to come out. And he's like, I'm not fucking
didn't
leaving.
pop.
And then finally they were putting like political pressure, so
Ah,
the
fuck
Dutch
it.
were like telling him to f off. So he ends up like sneaking out in the middle of the night, and they wanted him to fly a.
Hey, Ryan, if you're still in the chat, let me know if you want to see the alerts that pop up on my my stream whenever somebody follows me or subscribes to me.
A French flag. They like came up with.
All right, here is. This is the subscribers on YouTube.
A runabout. I'll steal it! No one will ever know!
So that's YouTube for the subscribers. It's the same thing on Kick for follows.
A runabout. I'll steal it! No one will ever know!
Then for members, I think it's changed. It should be.
Drown in poontang!
Then for super chats, it's.
Dear rich Dora Standpipe, how I love her! Father's money.
And I think there might be a special one.
Drown in poontang!
Is there not? No, okay, there's not. Yeah. That's pretty much it. What do you mean, Jesus fucking Christ? Yeah, that was my profile picture for a while, but nah, I didn't get that one. I picked the actual scene. Yeah, that was my profile picture for a while, where when they animated him licking the picture. But then I switched it to Kermit looking over his shoulder.
The legal reason that he would be able to fly a French flag, meaning the British weren't going to be able to attack him.
Oh.
And he's like, no, this is an American ship. Fuck y'all. So he lost his flag when his ship sank. So he like just has like the description from like Benjamin Franklin and some letters of the
I've seen
American
that.
flag.
Yeah.
This is where the Serapis flag comes from, is what it's called after the ship.
Hang on. I might do it. But if you look at him, it kind of fits, because if you look at him,
Drown in poontang!
look at him. He starts styling. Wait, hold up. What's the Okay, it's a GIF. How do I make a GIF? Excuse me. Hang on. Oh! Bro, I just loaded the video. And look what it popped up on.
Dear rich Dora Standpipe, how I love her. Father's money.
I clicked on the video. That was the first thing that popped up because it was still on that book. Because that's where I screenshotted.
I love her. Father's money.
I think it was like this was what my my profile picture on Discord was for so long. Holy fucking shit. God, I love this picture. This is so great. Oh, hold on. I gotta figure out how to make a GIF out of a YouTube like clip. Son of a bitch. I don't need to make it on the iPhone. I just need to make it here. I should honestly make this my background, because like hold on. That's my right screen background. Hold on. Okay, hang on. Go away. Hang on, I'm trying to build it right now. Fuck, hold on. Where is it? 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 I lost it. I lost it. I lost it. There it is. Oh, hang on. No. What just got unplugged? Hang on, Ryan. If you're still in the chat, I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you. You're gone. No, that's not that one. I gotta throw myself a test real quick. Hold on. Fuck. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. This is Super Chats. Is this what you mean, Ryan?
Dear rich Dora Standpipe, how I love her. Father's money.
That's not right. It didn't save it. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hang on, let's go to save the changes. I thought it saved the changes.
Dear
There it is.
Dora Standpipe, how I love her. Father's money.
I think I got it. Oh, no, wait, you went the Drown in Poontang one, didn't you? Hold on. Hang on.
A runabout. I'll steal it! No.
Drown in Poontang!
Ah, okay. Now I got it. I know what you mean now. I'm a fucking idiot. My bad. Let's go back to YouTube real quick. Save. My bad. The super chat should still be this one. So hang on.
Drown in Poontang!
So that's what it should look like. That's what he want. That's what he meant. So for
Drown in Poontang!
all right, when you come back, Ryan, you'll see it.
Therapist. He goes to some Dutch seamstress and she just like throws together what she can from the like shitty description of the current American flag, and he slaps that bitch on the ship and sails out in the middle of the night and makes his getaway. That's the flag that she came up with. That's the only time it's ever like been like legitimately flown in U.S. history was some Dutch seamstress.
We need to start using that. I love that flag design.
The I'm still stuck on the fact like that's a very cool story. I haven't heard that in a while. Like I just got like flashbacks to fucking high school history, but I'm still.
Oh, okay. Here you go. Let me pull it up. This one.
Drown in Poontang!
Is that what you meant? There you go. So now whenever somebody subscribes to my Kick or becomes a member on my YouTube, that's what pops up. So don't expect to see it much, if at all.
Stuck on Benjamin Franklin's pen name was Poor Richard.
Yeah.
Imagine all of your diplomacy for a budding country in the middle of a war.
Well, I think
all the correspondence is being done by a guy under the pen name Broke Dick.
Well, I think it was like secret letters.
Sincerely, Broke Dick.
but like there's just some funny shit.
God, Ben Franklin was so fucking weird. Like, he was a horn dog too. Homeboy was like, he'd make a modern day Marine proud. Tried to fuck anything that moved, basically. Speaking of Fat Electrician, has he posted anything recently that I haven't watched? Two weeks ago? Okay, let's check this out. Hang on. I need to clean up my OBS.
This is my third attempt in the last year at making this video, but it's one of those ones that you have to get right. Today we're talking about America's samurai, the Nisei, the second generation Japanese Americans that comprise the 442nd Infantry Regiment and the 100th Infantry Battalion, aka the Purple Heart Battalion. Ladies and gentlemen, in World War II, America did what is, in my opinion, one of the most disgusting things that the American government has ever done. They signed an executive order suspending all of the constitutional rights of Japanese Americans and then
put them into internment camps. Yeah, it was a bad time for the Japanese to be in America.
Forced over.
I think it was honestly a bad time to be Asian to be in America because nobody knew the difference between Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Taiwanese. So like, I think the Japanese get them in the camp.
120,000 American citizens into an internment camp for the duration of World War II for no other reason than they had Japanese ancestry. Despite that, the sons of these Japanese Americans not only volunteered to fight for America in World War II, they demanded and petitioned for the opportunity.
There was a guy, his name was Hershey. Is he still alive? I don't think so. I think he died recently. He's a medal.
Do so. And
he's a Medal of Honor awardee. Hold on. Motherfucker. I hate when I click something and it never wants to work. His nickname was Hershey. Oh, he died 3 years ago. He would have been 100 years old this year. Yeah. Hiroshi Hershey Miyamura. Yeah, they made an episode about him on the Netflix show Medal of Honor. It's pretty cool.
This is my third attempt in the Infantry Battalion. In my opinion, for other reason to fight for America in World War II. They demanded and petitioned for the opportunity to do so. And not only did they fight, they became one of the most effective and decorated combat units in American history. And we're going to get into it right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Sundays. It's food for dogs. Isn't that right, Mushu? All right. Okay. Calm down. Anyways, Sundays for Dogs is dog food that's made with a bunch of human ingredients like, actual meat and not, ground up cartilage and pig dicks. The food actually looks different. Like, it actually looks like beef jerky. It doesn't smell like a bunch of dehydrated dog food. It's air dried. It's made here in America. Mushu loves it, and it's pretty much the only thing he'll eat now. Nope. It's like all the other fancy dog foods with none of the downsides, right? You don't have to open a can every time you go to feed your dog. You don't have to stick this shit inside your refrigerator. And you can get it as a subscription service, so it just keeps showing up to your house because, at least for me, every time I had dog food on my grocery shopping list, I would always forget. Then I had to make a trip just for dog food. So it's nice to have it just show up at the house. So if you want to give Sundays a try, I'm gonna have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video.
I don't think they fought the Japanese Americans when they were in the army. I don't think they fought the Japanese. I think they fought the Germans. Or in Africa. Well, that's still the Germans.
All right, our story begins on December 7th, 1941, when the Imperial Japanese attack America at Pearl Harbor. Okay, everybody knows what the attack on Pearl Harbor is, but what almost nobody knows about is the Ni Hao incident that happened directly after the attack on Pearl Harbor that would change the course of American history. During the second wave of the attack at Pearl Harbor, America was able to get some of their fighter planes up in the air and begin fighting back. Some of these American fighter planes were obviously shooting at the Japanese fighter planes, and one of these Japanese Zeros ends up getting shot in its fuel tank and leaks out a bunch of its fuel. The Imperial Japanese pilot Shigenori Nichikaichi does the only thing he can do in that situation. He makes an emergency landing on what he believes to be a small uninhabited Hawaiian island known as Niihau. However, he was incorrect. The island actually had 135 inhabitants, 133 of which were native Hawaiians, and then there was one Japanese couple, Yoshi and Irene Harada. Now, Niihau is like 140 miles away from Pearl Harbor, so the residents of the island had no idea that Japan was actually attacking America, so when he first made this emergency landing, everybody was happy to help this guy. They thought he was just, you know, a pilot from a friendly country that needed their help. Then, within a couple of hours, word had reached Niihau that America was under attack by the Japanese, at which point the Hawaiians did the appropriate thing. They took him as their prisoner, took away his guns, locked him up, and they were going to hold him for the American government to come and get him.
All right, let me ask you this one time. What master do you serve?
What master do I serve? What am I supposed to say? Jesus?
But for whatever reason, Yoshi and Irene decided that they were sympathetic towards this Japanese pilot, so much so that they were actually going to help him break out of jail, arm him, and try to help him escape.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
That's not good. You're supposed to be... Well, Hawaii's a territory at this moment. It's not a state, but not helping.
Let's see if it pays off for him.
This plan would ultimately be thwarted by the Hawaiians, primarily a man by the name of Ben Kanahele, who was a World War I veteran and rancher. When Ben Kanahele went to stop Shugenori from escaping, Shugenori shot him 3 times, at which point Ben Kanahele proceeds to pick Shugenori up and throw him at a stone wall.
Damn.
His wife then bashes him in the head with a rock, while Ben pulls out his hunting knife and slits his throat. Which I cannot stress to you enough is the most Polynesian American shit I have ever heard in my entire life. Homie gets shot 3 times, then proceeds to pick up the armed gunman and throw him at a wall like he's the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, basically. Slit his throat, too. Granted, I would be pissed off, too. You motherfucker, you shot me. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'm slicing your throat. Holy fuck.
After that, Yoshi, the Japanese man that was trying to help him escape, would also wind up dead, and his wife Irene would end up being incarcerated for the rest of World War II. So Ben Kanahele saves the day. Hooray, that's good. Bad news, this is a really, really bad look for pretty much all Japanese Americans, right? There was 2 Japanese Americans present, and they elected to side with the Imperial Japanese that were attacking America. And this winds up being one of the main catalysts and excuses for the American government discriminating against American citizens that had Japanese ancestry. By January 1942, the Hawaiian National Guard released all of its soldiers that had Japanese ancestry and basically just kicked them out of the army. Which is kind of a big deal because at this point in time, like 40% of the Hawaiian population actually had Japanese ancestry. Then by February 19th, 1942, FDR would sign Executive Order 9066, which effectively suspended all of the constitutional rights of any Japanese American, ordered them to sell their homes, sell their businesses for a much lower value than they were actually worth, and then they were supposed to report to an internment camp for the duration of World War II. With a single...
God, that fucking sucks. Our whole life's uprooted because people they don't know fucked them over.
Pen stroke, 120,000 American citizens lost all of their constitutional rights and went from being a full-fledged American to a prisoner like that. Now, like I already said, I think that is one of the most disgusting things the American government has ever done. However, I do have to get kind of sidetracked because I have a crazy conspiracy theory about this, and it's going to get weird, so bear with me.
I'm going to get real weird with it. Meanwhile, block the wind. I'm going to roast this bone.
Jesus Christ. I think that this inspired Star Wars, and just hear me out. The Jedi and the Sith, you know, the guys with the lightsabers, are clearly inspired by samurai. You know, they have the robes, they have the same garb, they have swords, that's their primary weapon. They're just space samurai, that's all it is. You've got the Jedi, which are the good ones, and then you've got the Sith, which are the bad ones, similar to Japanese people. You've got the Imperial Japanese, which are the bad ones, and then you have the American Japanese, which are the good ones. But then Chancellor Palpatine comes along. He is the leader of the Republic, the president, so to speak. Also worth noting, he's an elderly guy that nobody ever sees standing up. He's always sitting down.
I'm too weak. Oh, don't kill me.
So this is meant to be a shot at FDR. Sidious is FDR.
And he issues an order to get rid of all the Jedi. He gets rid of all the good guys just like that. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Chubby Electron guy's reaching too far. He's lost his mind.
Wait.
Potentially, okay.
Wasn't the Executive Order 9066?
Hey, but here's the linchpin in the entire argument, right? When Emperor Palpatine got rid of the Jedi, he got rid of the good guys. He executed Order 66. When FDR got rid of all the Japanese Americans, he signed Executive Order 9066. I mean, what the fuck are the odds, right?
Shit. They're onto me, dude. Those guys are sharp as nails up there. You can't put anything past them.
Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, 120,000 Japanese American
no.
citizens end up getting thrown in concentration camps inside of America.
So the Jedi are Japanese Americans?
Shitty, awful, horrible, but it's what happened. In Hawaii, however, things went a little bit different because a significant portion of the Hawaiian population was Japanese and they couldn't throw all of them in a concentration camp. Otherwise, it would crash the entire Hawaiian economy. So a lot of them got to kind of live borderline normal lives. So a lot of the Japanese Americans that were previously serving in the National Guard that got released from duty end up forming what they called the Varsity Victory Volunteers, and they petitioned the Hawaiian governor and they were like, hey, look, I understand I have a Japanese ancestry, but I'm not Japanese. I'm an American. I understand you're not going to let me fight and have a gun, but I still want to help with this war effort any way I can because this is my home and I want to fight for it. And the Hawaiian governor ends up letting them form this volunteer group. And essentially, they just start doing any manual labor jobs that they can do that's going to help with the war effort. They're stringing out concertina wire. They're digging ditches. They're pouring roads. They're pouring airstrips. They're doing anything and everything that gets asked of them. And this goes on for months. And then by June of 1942, the government's like, okay, I get it. You guys are loyal to America. We're going to go ahead. We're going to bring you back into the army, but you're going to be in a segregated all Japanese unit being led by white officers. You're going to be known as the 100th Infantry Battalion. So they take 1,500 of these young Japanese American men that are second-generation Americans, also known as Nisei, and they ship them off to Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, which is completely redundant because all of them had already been in the Hawaiian National Guard, and they'd already gone through Army basic training, but that's where they send them to go through it again.
It's quiet on Kick's side. My buddy's in the chat on YouTube, so it's not... He keeps me entertained when he's not playing Final Fantasy.
And they do it.
Done, drill sergeant? Why did you put that weapon together so quickly, Go?
You told me
to, drill sergeant.
And while they're there, the Nisei continue to prove that they are 1,000% committed to America, despite the fact that America has given them every reason to not be. And they prove it not with just their general dedication to the task, but while they're actually there, the Army secretly sends in psychologists inside of their command structure to evaluate them, to see if they're lying, to see if they're actually dedicated to America. And all of the psychologists are like, yeah, these guys are 100% legit. They mean it when they say they're here to fight for America. On top of that, they go above and beyond when 5 Nisei end up getting awarded the Soldier's Medal because there was some civilians that went out on a frozen lake and the ice shattered and they were going to drown, and these young Nisei went out and saved these civilians. In addition to that, 26 of them volunteered to go be bait for attack dogs when America was trying to train dogs to be able to sniff out Japanese people.
What's with the alarm? I'm confused.
The Pacific Theater. They were literally doing anything and everything that was asked of them, regardless of how shitty of a job it was. And somewhere along the way, it becomes clear to the chain of command, like, okay, these guys are legit. We're going to give them guns and we're going to send them off into combat. But we're going to make sure that we send them off into the European theater. Fair enough. We're not going to send them into the Japanese theater for a multitude of reasons. One, if they get caught as Japanese Americans fighting against Japan, the Japanese are going to absolutely torture them to death, and it's going to be horrible. So, A, we're going to protect them in that fashion, but B, we also don't want Japanese Americans really participating in the Pacific Theater in a combat role, because if the American soldiers that aren't Japanese get accustomed to seeing Japanese guys in an American uniform, eventually the Japanese could figure out, like, hey, we're going to start taking uniforms off of dead GIs, we're going to dress up as Americans, infiltrate their ranks, and then wreak havoc behind friendly lines.
The only difference is that the Japanese Americans speak perfect English. The actual Japanese, not too well.
Just be honest right now. How confident are we that we're going to be able to know who's who? Right? Like, it's going to be the Spider-Man meme.
So at this point, they send him off to Camp Shelby, Mississippi for advanced infantry training, and then FDR announces that he's going to form an even larger all-Japanese Nisei regiment, the 442nd. Now, the American government is hoping to get 4,500 volunteers to be in the 442nd Infantry Regiment, which is kind of a big ask from a community of people that you've just taken all of their civil rights away and then thrown them in a prison. And not only do they end up getting 4,500 volunteers, they get over 10,000, which is absolutely insane, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you incarcerated my entire family for no other reason than the color of their skin and then asked me to go fight in a world war for you, I would probably tell you to go fuck yourself. So all 10 10,000 of these dudes are far bigger men than me. Speaking of bigger men than me, one of the volunteers is a young man by the name of Daniel Inouye, who is currently in med school trying to be a doctor. When Pearl Harbor happened, he ran to the nearest Blue Cross aid station and started working around the clock treating the wounded. And he's been volunteering at aid stations and hospitals for months while also going to med school ever since Pearl Harbor happened. So when he goes to the draft board tells him, like, no, you're too valuable where you're at. You're going to go off and become a doctor. On top of that, you're already doing a bunch of work for us stateside. We don't want to send you off to combat. So he's like, okay, I'll be right back.
Oh, no, I get that. Sometimes you just gotta throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. For me, I'm just throwing shit at the wall. Reaction streams, video game streams.
He leaves, drops out of med school, tells
Reaction
the hospital
streams.
he's not coming back to help anymore, and then goes back to the draft board and is like, I just quit my job and I dropped out of med school. Fucking send me. So they end up sending him,
badass.
and he ships off with the rest of the 442nd Infantry Regiment for basic training 2 days later. While the 442nd ship off to get their training started, the 100th Infantry Battalion is finishing up their advanced training at Camp Shelby, Mississippi. They are then sent off to North Africa, and they get there in September of 1943. So they land in Oran, which is a major port city in Algeria, and from there they get attached to the 34th Infantry Division, aka the Red Bulls, in particular the 133rd Infantry Regiment, aka the Iron Men, which, cool part, that's my old unit. Not so cool part, the commander is kind of a dickhead because when he has his greeting speech to the one...
How long has my old unit existed? Hang on. Did my unit exist in World War II? Okay, yeah, so it did exist back in 1933. History is my passion. I dive head first into history. So my unit, the 62nd Expeditionary Signal Battalion, was constituted on 1 October 1933 in the regular battalion, and then it was not activated until 13 October 1939, so 6 years later. It's my old battalion. Shit, what was our motto? Fuck, what was our motto? Yeah, forewarned is forearmed. That's right. Okay, I couldn't remember.
100th Infantry Battalion, he openly refers to them as the guinea pigs from Pearl Harbor. And not that I'm trying to defend Commander Mark Clark for calling them guinea pigs, I'm absolutely not. But to put it into a little bit of context, a lot of people have a lot of doubts that the Nisei soldiers are going to be effective on the battlefield, okay? The average Nisei soldier at this point...
I mean, if they're fucking trained, they'll be deadly if they know their jobs.
Time was between 5'4" and 5'6" and weighed somewhere between 120 and 140 pounds, and they just got attached to the 34th Infantry Division.
Hey, they're short enough that they won't be seen in tall bamboo grass. Unfortunately, they're not going to the Pacific, so doesn't help them.
Which is based out of the Midwest. Okay, the 34th Infantry Division, by and large today, but especially back then, was almost nothing but 185-pound corn-fed white boys with machine guns that grew up on a farm. So they're looking at these...
There's always a joke about the corn-fed motherfucker. It's like, and they're always somehow from Nebraska. It's like that's a corn-fed hillbilly from Nebraska.
These dudes with a smaller stature, like, what do you guys really think you're going to do on this battlefield? Why are you even here?
I don't need to be big and strong to shoot somebody.
If the Nisei want respect, they're going to have to prove themselves. And from the second they step foot in combat, that's exactly what they did, because they started kicking ass right outside of Salerno, Italy, when they first saw combat.
Oh, okay, so they went through Italy. All right, because I'm about to say, I don't remember hearing any Japanese soldiers in Europe. So, well, France, going through France to Germany. So they went through Italy. Got it. Okay. So I was half right, but I was also half wrong because I thought they might have gone through Africa.
Week of combat, they drove the Germans back 15 miles per day every single day. These guys were fearless on the battlefield. In a matter of a couple of months, they had completely changed the opinions of absolutely everybody that encountered them. Mark Clark, the same commander that referred to them as guinea pigs, sent a note up the chain of command saying, hey, when that 442nd Infantry Regiment's done training, I want them too. These Nisei fighters are fucking awesome. When the Des Moines Register, the biggest newspaper back home in Iowa, wrote an article being critical of the Nisei being attached to the 34th Infantry Division, the members of the 34th Infantry Division wrote a letter to their editor. And I quote,
It's probably telling... It's right there. We are Iowa boys of the 34th Division. We have fought side by side with the boys of Japanese descent. We know plenty of boys that call themselves Americans that have done much less to prove that they give a hang about their country. Golly, the language used back in 1940s is so interesting. Hang about their country. There have been times that these Japanese, as you call them, have saved many lives, only because they have proven themselves better Americans than some that were not of Japanese descent.
We're Iowa boys of the 34th Division. We have fought side by side with the boys of Japanese descent. We know plenty of folks that call themselves Americans that have done much less to prove they give a hang about their country. There have been times when these Japanese, as you call them, have saved many lives, only because they have proven themselves better Americans than some that were not of Japanese descent. So not only are the Nisei of the 100th Infantry beating the Nazis, they are also winning over hearts and minds left and right, and they're just getting warmed up.
Oh, Monte Cassino!
By January of 1944.
If I remember correctly, Ryan, you can confirm or deny this, but wasn't Monte Cassino the spot where there was like this old, like almost like castle that housed a ton of artifacts going from like the BC era, and it got bombed and destroyed a lot of those artifacts. Wasn't that Monte Cassino? Gonna need you to confirm or deny that.
For the 100th and the rest of the Allied forces have advanced through North Africa, and they have come up to the German Gustav Line. The Gustav Line is effectively the line in the sand that Germany has drawn, where they are not going to let the Allied forces advance past this point. It is heavily fortified, they have the high ground, they have all the advantages, and they are going to fight tooth and nail to not let Allied forces...
I'm sure my buddy knows, because he and I, we both like history, so he knows quite a bit as well.
Penetrate through this line into Europe. And one of the most vital areas of the Gustav Line is where the 100th Infantry is at. It's at Monte Cassino. Cassino is a small town, and then above it, on a humongous hill overlooking the town, is an old monastery that the Germans have turned into a
Told you!
fortress.
Oh,
and
fuck me, I'm right.
They went and chopped down all the trees on the hills and the ground in front of the monastery, knocked down all...
I was close. It was a monastery. I knew it was a big building. That's why I knew it was a big building.
All the buildings, so there's absolutely
old,
nothing to provide cover or concealment in case they assault. So you're pretty much running through an open field uphill into German machine gun fire if you try to take this position, and that's exactly what America's going to do anyways, because it's the only option. And because the 100th Infantry, which I'm now going to refer to by their nickname, the One Puka Puka, because it's easier for me to say, has developed a reputation for being both fearless and willing to take on any challenge, they are selected to lead the first assault on Monte Cassino. January 17th, 1944 at midnight, Alpha and Charlie Company of the One Puka Puka.
Hey, that comment might actually help my progress to verification. I need 100 unique comments before the end of the month.
Are going to take off, advance up this hill. They fight all the way up this hill and make it to the outer stone walls of this monastery, where they get pinned down and they continue to fight all night long. They're taking heavy casualties. They're running out of ammunition. It is straight up not a good time. They need more ammo. But now it's broad daylight out, so they're going to have to send in reinforcements. So they send in Bravo Company of the One Puka Puka. But if they go out in broad daylight up this hill with no cover, they're going to get absolutely mowed down. So they drop a bunch of smoke. Bravo Company starts advancing through the smoke, and then the wind shifts and blows all the smoke away, and they get just utterly destroyed.
Ryan, can you remember the name of that World War II soldier? He got the Medal of Honor. He got a shit ton of awards. He became a movie star. Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy. Didn't he fight at Monte Cassino? Where did his Medal of Honor come from? Because I know he was. Okay, no, never mind. Because his Medal of Honor was awarded for his actions in January of 45, and Italy was already basically cleaned up by that point.
Destroyed. Of the 187 men of Bravo Company, only 14 of them end up making it to the wall. After taking that many casualties, they break away, and they get just utterly destroyed. Of the 187 men of Bravo Company, only 14 of them end up making it to the wall.
Holy shit! What's the casualty rate of that? He said 180. No, hold on. That's 70% casualties. Holy shit.
After taking that many casualties and running out of ammunition and having fought all night already, they are finally ordered to withdraw. A couple of weeks later, the Allied forces launch another major attack on Monte Cassino and the Gustav Line. This time, the one Puka Puka is ordered to take Castle Hill, a neighboring hill to the monastery that's of vital importance to be able to cut off support. The Nisei actually managed to fight their way up the hill and take the top of the hill, and they managed to hold it for 4 straight days, fighting their asses off. But then eventually, the flanks of the 34th Infantry end up collapsing, and they're about to get completely surrounded and stuck on top of this hill, at which point they are ordered to withdraw again. By this point, the 100th Infantry Battalion has lost 50% of their men, and they are ordered to the rear where they can recuperate and pick up reinforcements to replenish their ranks. People start referring to them as the Purple Heart Battalion and the Little Men of Iron, a play on the 133rd Infantry Regiment's Iron Men nickname. After a brief recuperation, they are then sent to a different spot on the Gustav Line near Anzio, and this...
Let's also not forget that Purple Hearts that are still being awarded to this day were ones that were made back in World War II when Japan had still not surrendered, and it was expected that we were going to have to invade Japan. So they made an abundance of Purple Hearts just for that conflict. They made like well over a few million because they expected such big casualties.
Spot of the line is essentially World War I-esque warfare. Each team has their trench, and there's just no man's land in between. For 2 months straight, all they do is sit inside their trenches and their foxholes. They fight all night and they sleep all day. The one Puka Puka starts referring to it as Dracula days. They sleep during the day, they draw blood at night. While the one Puka Puka is there is a third major attack on Monte Cassino by other Allied forces that also fails. At this point, the chain of command's getting restless, they're pissed, they need to break through the German Gustav Line, and eventually they come to the conclusion, fuck it, we're just gonna pick a point where we're gonna attack, and we're gonna hit that singular point along the line with absolutely everything we've got. The problem is, the Germans have massive tank units in the area too, and they need to know where those tank units are because
Ryan, you were the German World War II nerd. Were there Panzers in Italy? Or was it Tigers?
if they decide to attack at a singular point, and that's the point where there's a bunch of German tanks, it's not going to go that great for the Allied forces. So they need to figure this out. Otherwise, this is going to be a humongous gamble. At this point, a member of the one Puka Puka steps forward and goes to the chain of command because he's got an idea. And that man is Lieutenant Young Ok Kim. And Young Ok Kim is already a complete badass. He's already earned...
That guy is Korean.
A silver star and a purple heart, and he's coming to the chain of command with this crazy idea. But what's most interesting about Young Ok Kim is he's one of the very few people in the one Puka Puka that's not Japanese.
Yeah, he's
and
Korean.
that's because he's an officer, and typically the officers were white men, but in Young Ok Kim's case, he was Korean. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, the racial tensions between Japanese people and Koreans during World War II was pretty high, considering the Japanese had invaded Korea and were committing atrocities there. Because of this, prior to deploying with the one Puka Puka, the chain of command pulled Young Ok Kim aside, and they were like, hey, we understand that Japan is invading Korea. There's racial tensions between Japanese and Korean people. If you want, we can give you different orders and have you attached to a different unit. To which Young Ok Kim replied, and I quote, There are no Japanese nor Koreans here. We're Americans, and we're fighting for the same cause.
Hell
so
yeah.
Kim is just a complete badass, and he goes through the chain of command,
Clear.
and he's like, look,
Clearly.
you need somebody to go behind enemy lines and figure out where these tank units are. Here's my plan. You guys keep attacking at night with these major formations. It's obvious. They know we're coming at night. Why don't you send me and one other guy behind enemy lines in broad daylight? I will sneak back there. I will capture a German soldier, drag him back. We can interrogate him and figure out where these tank units are, and then we'll know where to attack.
And they let him do it. Serious? They let him do it.
You serious?
Okay, now right out of the gate, that's kind of a stupid idea, right? You're really going to go behind no man's land, capture an
It's
enemy
clear that
soldier,
Kim is the
drag
main
him back
character
without
here.
getting caught and killed. But the Allied forces are desperate, so they're like, you know what? It might work, and if it works, it's not that stupid. They give him the green light, and he sets off to do it.
It's only stupid if it doesn't work. There's many things you need to understand about the military. It's never a war crime the first time. It's never a war crime if you're the winner. And it's only stupid if it doesn't work.
May 16th, Lieutenant Kim and PFC Irving Akahoshi crawl through no man's land through an open wheat field in broad daylight, crawl all the way behind enemy lines where they find a German unit that had been up all night manning their machine guns. They then stalk them further behind enemy lines and watch them as they eat dinner, breakfast, whatever they're eating at this point in time. Watch them eat and then fall asleep. And then when two dudes go to, be the guards, they stalk them, and then they end up sitting there and waiting till they fall asleep, and they wake them up by shoving their guns in their mouths so they can't scream. Kim and Akahoshi then take their two German prisoners, smuggle
Imagine
them
waking
back
up to
through
that.
no man's land,
Barrel in
behind
your
friendly
mouth
lines,
and the enemy
turn
in
the
front of you.
prisoners over, they get interrogated, they gather the intel as
Pants
to where
will
the
be
German
thoroughly
tank
shitted.
units are, and define the battle plans for the entire Allied advance. 48 hours later, after setting off on his mission, the Allied forces launched their attack in Monte Cassino Falls on May 18th. Lieutenant Young Ok Kim is then awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest award in the American military. And as he's getting that pinned on his chest, Commander Mark Clark looks down and sees his first lieutenant rank, and then points over to a captain nearby and is like, "You, Mir." Captain approaches, he rips the captain rank off of this guy and pins Lieutenant Young Ok Kim as a captain as well. Cutting back to the rest of the One Puka Puka over at Anzio, they also coordinated the attack with the fourth battle of Monte Cassino, so that
So they never upgraded that from a Distinguished Service Cross to a Medal of Honor. I didn't know if he was also one. Sometimes that happens where you'll see someone will get awarded like a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, a Distinguished Service Cross, or a Navy Cross, and then a few years down the line they're like, No. That what they did was actually a lot more impressive than that. We're going to upgrade that. We're going to go through Congress and get that upgraded to a Medal of Honor. Sometimes that happens, not all the time.
If Monte Cassino fell, they were also going to launch their offensive, hopefully driving the Germans back, so that they broke the Gustav line in two locations. That way, they could advance forward and in and either crush the Germans in the middle, or the Germans would be forced to retreat. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And not only that, the One Puka Puka was the lead element of the Anzio breakout.
Oh, what battle?
So now the Allied forces are chasing the Germans as they advance towards Rome, and the One Puka Puka is out.
I think that Roy Benavidez should get a movie about himself. I mean, that's a guy who literally, he jumped out of a helicopter, broke, I think, both of his legs in Vietnam, ran through gunfire and got shot several times, rescued several of his crew, got stabbed with the bayonet, had his entrails basically ripped out, killed the guy who was stabbing him, ran more, got blown up by a few grenades, and still made it back to the helicopter. They zipped his ass up in a body bag because they thought he was dead, and the only thing that Roy could do, because he was so drained, could not move at all, was spit on the doctor, zipping him up. And they thought he was a Viet Cong or a North Vietnamese soldier, because he was Hispanic and his body had been so mangled. They thought they grabbed a North Vietnamese guy. And it wasn't until he spit on somebody and they're like, "Oh shit, that's Roy." That's Tango Mike. Don't zip him up, he's alive. And then they took him back, they patched him up. I think he retired a few years later. And it wasn't until the Reagan administration that he got his Medal of Honor, because he was technically, what he was doing was technically off the books. The Battle of Castle Itter, French politician prisoners, German... Oh, I think I've heard about that one. Yeah, I think I've heard about that one. Yeah, it was like it was only a few people, right? And they literally repelled an entire SS battalion. Yeah, I've heard about that one. I remember that now.
Front, and as they get near Rome, they're like 15 miles outside of Rome. They are going to be the first Americans to set foot in a major European capital as the Allied forces capture it. They are ordered to stand down as they peel off the side of the road and just kind of hang out in the ditch, and they don't know what's going on. And then other American units start catching up, and then they keep marching, and they keep marching into Rome. And now the one Puka Puka is not the first into Rome, and it dawns on them, they pulled us off to the side because they didn't want a bunch of Japanese dudes being the first Americans to capture a major European capital. They never even got to set foot in Rome. They were ordered to go link up with the new Nisei unit, the 442nd Infantry Regiment, and they would be absorbed into that unit now instead. From here, the one Puka Puka still kind of retained its identity as the 100th Infantry Battalion, but they are just now one of 3 battalions inside of the 442nd Infantry Regiment. And their new unit slogan is...
Oh, yeah, Ryan. Who has a street? Interesting. That's insane. Nah, this guy is pretty crazy. Vito R. Bertoldo. He's a Medal of Honor awardee. He literally was a cook. And he went with his unit. Like, his unit, I think, had a rainbow. They had a rainbow. Yeah, no, not the division. Regiment. Yeah, see, the 42nd Infantry Division. It was a rainbow. He literally holds his post. He's the last guy alive between an entire, like, a German group that pretended to surrender who killed his men. He came out, killed them, held position, I think, for like 2 straight days without sleep, propped up a sniper rifle on a spot. 2 tanks came through. He repelled them all. Like, this guy was insane. Because never forget, when you have bad eyesight, you are the main character in the war.
Is one of the best and most famous slogans in military history, go for broke, which is a Hawaiian slang term that basically means I'm going all in. I'm pushing all my chips into the table, because that's exactly...
Ian Pavlovich. Or, wait, you say Ian or Ivan? Ivan. Motherfucker. I keep forgetting. Pavlovich Sereda? This guy? Okay, so he was a cook. Okay, hold on. Let's see what we can find. It's all in Russian. I can't read it. They don't know Russian. That doesn't help me at all. Oh, he captured a tank. That's pretty badass. No, hang on. Now, this one's interesting. This is a Finnish soldier who I believe, yeah, it was World War II. Now, they had, well, it was continuing war, but yeah. This guy literally, like, because back in World War II around this time, they took this kind of like almost like chewable. Yeah. Pervitin, this is what it's called. It's legal meth. Yeah, No. He wasn't a one-man army. He took because the tablet congealed. He just ate the whole thing and was high off his ass for 2 weeks straight on meth. He literally traveled 200 miles. And according to his history, he skied for like 200 miles. He thought he was following what was a distant flame from when he thought it was like, oh, that's probably somebody. I'm gonna ski over there and see if I can meet them. Turns out he was following the North Star. He then laid down somewhere, heard growling, saw a wolverine, proceeded to pull his knife out and stab it, only to remember his buddies took his knife because he was tweaking out. And it wasn't a wolverine. He had stabbed a log with his compass. Then he finds a cabin, lights a fire, completely forgets that he lit the fire in the middle of the cabin and burned the cabin down. Then he got shot a few times, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm going to die. And he never died. He eventually got found, and it's insane what happened to this guy. It was so funny. 248 miles. His heart rate was 200 beats a minute, and he weighed just under 100 pounds. Doped out of his fucking mind. See, now hold up. Which is a good video? There's not really a lot of we'll watch this one. Hold up.
Military history is littered with stories about combat soldiers' acts of bravery and heroism. Frontline troops more often than...
That's John Basilone. I think he's the most, he's one of the highest decorated, enlisted Marines. He was the highest decorated enlisted Marine in World War II, being awarded both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross.
...and not feature in those stories. But sometimes it's the men and women performing jobs during wartime that you would least expect. In this video, we look at one such act performed by a Russian army cook during World War II.
Let's see how this fucker did it.
Ivan Pavlovich Sereda was born in 1919 in a small village in modern-day Ukraine. His family were quite poor, which meant his childhood was difficult at times. Once he was old enough, though, he joined a training centre to become a cook. He would graduate, but instead of going into the restaurant world, he was drafted into the Russian army in 1939. On the 1st of September in the same year, German forces would invade Poland through its western border. A non-aggression pact had been agreed between Germany and Russia just prior to that invasion. This essentially meant that both forces agreed to not take military action against the other.
Yeah, and how did that work out? Oh yeah, they took action against each other.
On the 17th of September, Russian forces would invade Poland through its eastern border. This meant that Germany and Russian forces met somewhere near the middle of the country, where Poland would be divided between the two nations. In the following years with...
Yeah, people forget that. When people think about Warsaw, Poland, they only think of the Germans invading them. They always forget that Russia also invaded Poland.
Stalin growing more and more suspicious of Hitler's actions across Western Europe, the border between Russia and Germany would be strengthened with Russian defences. Eventually, the non-aggression pact would be broken, with the German invasion of Russia beginning on the 22nd of June 1941 under Operation Barbarossa. 3 million German soldiers would make their way across the border. This would eventually become known as the Eastern Front, and would see some of the heaviest casualties of the war. Ivan, meanwhile, had completed his basic training and was assigned as a cook in the 91st Tank Regiment. In August 1941, he was in a camp outside the city of Dvinsk in modern-day Latvia. He was alone
Here's
in
your
his field
porridge.
kitchen preparing food for the soldiers, who were all away from the camp at the time. In the evening, he saw a tank pull up not far from the camp. It took him a moment, but he soon realized it was not one of his tanks. It was a German tank.
He stole a German tank? Oh, Hitler's not going to be happy that Stalin's boys are stealing his stuff.
He sought shelter for a moment, contemplating his next move. Some of the...
This Ukrainian man, that's a nice tank you got there. What is it with the Ukrainians and stealing tanks? Don't forget, there were Ukrainians who did that back in 2020, 2022. They were stealing tanks with tractors.
German troops began to exit the tank when Ivan made an incredibly brave decision. He picked up his rifle and a nearby axe. He then charged.
If I'm correct, that should be a Mosin Nagant. Pretty good rifle.
At the Germans, screaming out with a war cry. Fearing for their lives, the Germans clambered back into the tank and closed the hatch. They began to fire towards Ivan with their machine guns. However, he was too quick for them. By this time, he had already arrived at the tank and proceeded to climb onto it.
Just casually dodging
bullets.
bullets.
With his quick thinking, he then used the axe to chop the machine gun's barrel until it was rendered useless. The tank's engine roared into life, with the driver beginning to make attempts of an escape. But Ivan had other plans and covered the viewing slits. This hampered the occupants' ability to see what was happening outside the tank. Ivan then took advantage of this and began to shout out orders for his fellow soldiers to bring up some grenades to destroy the tank. The only thing was, none of his fellow soldiers were around. Ivan was still alone and pretending that the Germans were outnumbered. Finally, the Germans indicated their willingness to surrender. Ivan had them exit the tank one by one as he covered them with his rifle. He would order each to tie the other up until the whole crew were out of the tank. When Ivan's comrades eventually returned to the camp, they were extremely impressed with his actions. The Germans were then taken off as POWs. He would continue to serve throughout the war, this time not as a cook but as a combat soldier. He took part in several battles, including the Siege of Leningrad. He would be discharged at war's end in 1945. He received several medals for his actions during the war. These included the Hero of the Soviet Union and the Order of Lenin. He would eventually pass
No
away
idea how
in
good those
Ukraine
are.
in 1950.
I don't know Russian.
But his solo capture
medals.
of a German tank is certainly one of the more memorable and heroic stories of World War II. As always,
Fucking get pranked, nerds. Pranked by the lone cook. I gotta go to the bathroom. I will be right back.
All right, I'm back.
How these guys felt. They're all in this shitty situation where their former homeland is attacking them and their new home seemingly doesn't want them. So they're picking their side and they're going all in. From here, the 442nd is ordered to head north and take over a town called Suvareto, and this is going to be the first major military operation that they get to conduct by themselves. This is the ultimate point that they get to prove themselves, where they can say, we did that alone and nobody else helped. And they do it with surgical precision. They end up taking the 2nd and 3rd battalions of the 442nd Infantry Regiment, and they attack the front of the town, and then they send the 1st Battalion, the 1 Puka Puka, around the backside to flank their retreat. Now, 2nd and 3rd Battalion, this is the first time they've seen combat. These guys are green. They just got out of training. So the Germans actually end up launching a semi-successful counterattack, but the 1 Puka Puka, 1st Battalion, sees it happening, and they instantly, without orders, adjust, go through, and they flank the Germans from the side, completely crushing them and taking over the entire town. From here, the 34th Infantry Division continues to advance deeper into Europe, and the 442nd alongside them is credited with over 1,100 confirmed kills and capturing 331 German prisoners of war. They then come up on another German defensive line where the Germans have dug themselves in, called Hill 40, which they end up nicknaming Little Casino because of how hard the Germans resisted, and the town of Castanella. 442nd leads the assault on Little Casino because, like it or not, they are now pretty much America's premier fighting force when the situation is running uphill into enemy gunfire and winning anyways. They battle the Germans for 3 days straight and end up taking Hill 140, aka Little Casino, which is ironic because their entire motto is about gambling big and going for broke, and every single time they manage to win. From here, the 442nd goes on R&R for a little while, then they get called back in. They are going to go into France, and they are getting detached from the 34th Infantry Division, and they are getting reattached to the 36th Infantry Division out of Texas. They travel 500 miles by foot and rail into France. They link up with the Texans, and they go back into battle. Now, combat from here, the terrain's completely different. They're in the Vosges Mountains. This combat is brutal. They're in heavily wooded forests, and every time they have to take a hill with Germans on top of it, the Germans retreat, run down the hill, run right up another hill, and then they have to fight up the high ground again.
That's gotta be so fucking annoying. It's cool, we took this hill. Yeah, but now they're at that hill. Fuck.
Absolutely miserable. And the first thing they need to do is they need to take over a town called Broyers, and in order to do that, they have to take over all the hills surrounding the town. There's 4 big ones, A, B, C, and D. The 442nd is in charge of taking over all the hills, while the rest of the 36th Infantry goes in and takes over the town. 442nd goes to work, they do their thing, they run uphill into German machine gun fire, take the hills anyways on A, B, and C. But on D, the Germans are putting up a hell of a fight. This battle goes on for hours. It's just a seesaw battle of they drive up the hill, they get driven back down, they drive up, they get driven back down. It is yard by yard, brutal combat. They're taking heavy casualties. There's finally a lull in the battle. There's not a wave going up. And normally, all the combat they've been experienced to at this time, the Germans have been pretty respectful of the rules of war, right? When you're not launching an attack, you send out the medics go out there, they pick up the casualties, they pick up the dead, they bring them back, they get everybody taken care of. You extend the enemy the same courtesy. That's usually how it's gone at this point. But now the Germans are getting desperate because D-Day has already happened. Shit is hitting the fan, and they are no longer playing by the rules. The 442nd doesn't know that, so they send the medics out. The medics go, they lay out the litter, they grab a guy that's been shot, still alive, probably gonna survive. His name's Abe Ohama. They get him on the litter, and they start carrying him back, and then the Germans open up on the medics and the wounded with machine gun fire. Abe Ohama, while he was on the litter, was struck again and immediately killed. Seeing this, the rest of the 442nd, unprompted, without orders, pissed off, gets on their feet and charges the hill while screaming, takes the entire hill, killing 50 Germans and capturing another 7 as POWs. The 442nd has just conducted what is very reminiscent of a Japanese banzai charge, and it's practice that they're going to need for later. From here, the rest of
the American banzai charge, huh?
36th Infantry goes in, they take over Broyers, and the 442nd renames Hill D Ohama's Hill. At this point, the 442nd's been fighting nonstop for weeks on end, so they're finally sent back to the rear for R&R. And the second they get there, it's like 2 a.m. in the morning, they immediately get told, There's an emergency. They got to turn back
You
around
gotta go
and
back.
head back to the front line. The commander of the 36th Infantry, General Dahlquist, somehow got placed in charge of an entire infantry division and had never actually been in combat. In addition to that, men that served underneath him said he seemed to care more about being the first unit into Germany than he did about actually taking care of his guys and keeping them alive. These factors would culminate and come to a head on October 24th, 1944, when he would order the 1st Battalion of the 141st Infantry Regiment to overextend into German lines, and they would then be engulfed and completely surrounded by an entire German division. To put that into perspective, if you don't know
That's
military
terrible.
unit sizes, that's about 300 men surrounded by about 6,000. So while the 442nd is making their way back to
Well, good. Now they have nowhere to run.
the front lines, General Dahlquist orders the 1st and 2nd Battalion of the 141st Infantry to go in and save their buddies. They go, they try fighting, they end up getting pushed back. And here's the kicker. The Germans just think that the Americans are trying to break through the line. They don't know that the Americans are freaking out because there's an entire battalion surrounded. They have no idea that 1st Battalion is up above them on a ridge. But from the American
under their
perspective,
noses.
they think obviously the Germans know that. So they're like, oh shit, we can't punch through the line to go save them. We better start airdropping in ammunition, food, and water so they can stay up on that ridge and fight as long as possible. So they go and try to airdrop a bunch of supplies to them. The airdrop gets caught by the wind and goes off course, and then the Germans are like, wait a minute, why the fuck are the Americans airdropping supplies to us? Oh shit, we have an entire battalion surrounded.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So now
That's
they
the
start
worst.
attacking the Lost Battalion 2. The 442nd makes it to the front line on October 28th. Now, in hindsight, some of the Nisei feel they were sent in particular because they were deemed expendable, and if they all died, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. However, a lot of the other Nisei like to believe they were sent in because they were the best. So the 442nd goes in, and it is absolutely...
That is the argument of one side is glass half empty, the other side is glass half full. It's like, well, fuck, they think we're expendable. What the fuck you mean? We're just the best they got.
Brutal. The Germans have minefields all over the fucking place. They have fortified machine gun positions. So the Lost Battalion's up here. The 442nd has to approach from here. There's the German line in between, and then off to the side is Hill 617 that also has a bunch of Germans on it, overlooking the approach to the German line. So they're just getting machine gun fire and mortars rained down on them from absolutely everywhere. For the first 2 days, the 442nd advances like a couple hundred yards. Every time they peek out from behind a tree, they
Damn.
stick their head up out of a foxhole. Anytime they leave cover, they're getting shot at. They can't move. They're completely pinned down. After 2 days of being essentially paralyzed on the battlefield, the 440...
You have no idea how small of movement that is. To move a couple hundred yards in a couple of days? You're literally slow crawling a football field a day.
Second, the Nisei decide they're going to live up to their motto, go for broke. They're just going to fucking send it. Here's the plan. They've got 3 battalions. They're going to send one of them up to Hill 617. They're going to take that hill, wipe the Germans off the top of it. Then they're going to come back down the hill, rejoin the other 2 battalions, and then they're going to launch a full-on assault and penetrate the German line and save the Texans. 3rd Battalion gets the order. They're going to launch their attack on Hill 617 first, at which point the 3rd Battalion commander grabs his Colt 45 pistol and says, okay, boys, let's go. Nobody moves. Nobody wants to get out of their foxhole or poke their head out from behind their tree. If they get up, they're going to get shot. This is absolutely crazy. After that, a couple of moments go by, probably the longest couple of moments in human history. It's just dead quiet. Nobody wants to move. And eventually, 2nd Lieutenant Edward Davis, the last officer in his company, stands up and gets on his feet as all the other Nisei are looking at him like he's crazy. And he turns to his highest ranking NCO, Sergeant Kohashi, and asks him, doesn't order him, he asks him, will you go with me? Sergeant Kohashi leaps up onto his feet, screams a battle cry, and starts running up the hill. And all of the...
Will you go with me? Ah! I'll take that as a yes.
Other Nisei do the exact same thing as they have a full frontal assault up this hill. Some of the men even sarcastically screamed "Banzai," both making fun of the Japanese that do this, and
I know they're not saying it in the Japanese tone either. They're not going, "Banzai!" They're going, "Banzai!"
and making fun of the situation as a whole, literally being a smartass in the face of death. They take heavy casualties, but within an hour,
if you're
they've
gonna
cleared
die,
all
you
the
might as well
Germans off the
go,
top of Hill
as a
617.
badass.
They then split up that battalion and send some of the companies back down to rejoin the other 2 battalions as they begin their assault towards the German line. And those companies that come down from the hill bring the same energy with them, and they launch another bonsai charge straight at the German line. Worth noting, one of the men that was in this charge was Daniel Inouye. Remember the kid we talked about earlier that dropped out of med school to go be part of the 442nd? He is in this charge going in to rescue the lost battalion, and as he's charging towards the German line, he gets shot in the chest.
Oh shit.
But he carries $2 silver in his front breast pocket for good luck, and they literally deflect the bullet and save his life. The 442nd then proceeds to fight and break through the German line, and what happens next is probably one of the coolest moments in human history. Cutting back to the Lost Battalion, they've been surrounded and fighting for their lives for the past 5 days. They're starving, they're dehydrated, they're low on ammunition, and there's this 19-year-old Texan kid in his defensive perimeter with his gun pointed outward, just waiting for the Germans to come and get him. There's fog, there's smoke, he can't see shit, and off in the distance he sees a silhouette approaching, and it's getting closer, and it's getting closer, but the silhouette's not shooting at him, so he doesn't shoot at them. And as it gets closer, he can start to see the person through the smoke, and it's a Japanese guy in an American uniform, Private First Class Matt Sakamoto. And as he gets closer, he stops, and Matt Sakamoto and this young Texan kid are looking at each other, and this Texas kid's lip starts quivering, and he starts tearing up. He's just had his life saved by this Nisei soldier. And then Matt Sakamoto, in the coolest thing ever, just reaches in his pocket and pulls out a package of Lucky Strike cigarettes, one for himself, and goes, "You want to smoke?" And a couple seconds after that, the rest of the Nisei come walking through the smoke, and they've rescued the Lost Battalion. 64 men of the Lost Battalion were killed in combat. 211 of them were...
Homeboy's freaking out. He thinks the Germans are coming at him. Here comes a Japanese guy. Literally just goes, "Sick of it."
Were saved by the 442nd. To save those men, the 442nd sustained 800 casualties, 120 dead, and 680 wounded. And it is at this point that a rational person that's maybe never served in the military would ask, is that even worth it? Should they have went in there to rescue them if it cost that much? And the answer is unequivocally yes. And it's not because the Nisei were expendable or that they were worth less than the Texans. It's because nobody's expendable. When you join the United States Army, when you become a soldier, they make you say the Soldier's Creed over and over and over again ad nauseum. And in the Soldier's Creed, it says,
"I will never leave a fallen comrade."
I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. And those aren't just words that they make you say because they sound good. No, it's a promise to the person to the left and the right of you that no matter how bad shit gets, we're going to come to get you because you're one of us. You're not just some number on a spreadsheet that we can plug into a mathematical calculation and
yeah, it's one of those things
determine
because when you're in battle, the only person that you can count on is the person next to you.
If you're worth saving or not. No, you're an American soldier and we're coming to fucking get you.
You're goddamn right.
And there's never been a better embodiment of this principle than the 442nd rescuing the Lost Battalion. Because not only did they live up to the ideal of you're one of us, we're coming to get you no matter what, they also, in doing so, proved that they are one of them. The Nisei, the outsiders, the Japanese that nobody can trust, proved irrefutably that they're not Japanese, they're not outsiders, they're just Americans. They're one of us.
I think it was the same thing with those who had German descent. You know, they had ancestry in Germany. Some Americans, during the events of the Germans invading Europe, they did go back to serve and fight with the Germans. But there were others who said, fuck that, I'm an American, I'm not going to do that. Then, of course, you got the Jewish individuals. It was like, people were nervous, like, should we send them to Germany if they get caught? They're going to go straight, we don't know what's going to happen. And the Jewish soldiers were like, no, I want to go fight the Nazis.
Okay, now, finally, after getting pulled off of R&R almost immediately to go save the day and rescue the Lost Battalion, they are then finally sent to southern France where they can actually have some R&R. And from November till March, they're on a security detail that's relatively low impact. They get to rest, recuperate, they get their ranks replenished, and this is referred to as the Champagne Campaign. Then in April of 1945, the Allied forces finally make it to the German Gothic Line, their last-ditch effort of defenses inside of Italy. It is heavily fortified, and like everything else the Germans made, it's believed to be impenetrable.
That's actually hilarious.
So the Allied forces called up the A-Team. They bring in the 442nd. Nothing has fucking stopped these guys yet. This probably isn't going to stop them either. And because they're the best guys, they're going to get the toughest mission. They are assigned to attack one of the mountain strong points of the entire Gothic line. Literally, the most impenetrable part, that's where the 442nd is going to attack. Now,
by this time, the Italians had already essentially gotten rid of Mussolini. They had basically taken him, like, the Italians rebelled. Hold on. Fucking God. Oh no. Did he died the same day Hitler did? Hang on. No, okay, Hitler died 2 days later. What a quick drop.
The reason the chain of command did this is they wanted to use the 442nd as a diversionary attack, right? They're going to have the 442nd attack this super strong point. That way, the Germans are going to send all of their reinforcement troops to this strong point to hold that point, right? And then once all the reserve troops are there fighting the 442nd, because these guys aren't going to give up, and hell, they might win anyways, they're going to be able to attack a weaker part in the Gothic line and punch through. However, nobody told the 442nd that, so the 442nd treats it not as a diversionary attack, but as a main attack, and they punch through the strongest point with reinforcements anyways.
That's such a military thing to do. It's like they don't tell the people at the bottom what they need to know. It's always you're on a need to know basis. Well, motherfucker, I need to fucking know.
In a single day.
You planned. It worked.
And during that attack on April 1st, 1945, the main character that's been there all along would finally emerge. Daniel Inouye, the 18-year-old kid that dropped out of medical school and put his dreams of becoming a surgeon on hold to go off and fight for his country. Daniel Inouye, the guy that helped save the Lost Battalion and had his life saved by $2 silver when he was shot in the chest, had ended up getting promoted in the field to a lieutenant and was now leading an entire platoon. During the attack on the Gothic line, Daniel Inouye's platoon gets pinned down by 3 German machine gun nests with MG-42s, the most terrifying machine gun of World War II. With his entire company pinned down, Daniel decides that he's going to live up to the unit motto of go for broke, and he's going to do some gangster shit. Advancing by himself, he gets shot in the stomach, fights through it, gets to the German machine gun nest, hits it with a grenade, blows it up, immediately shifts to go to the next German machine gun nest, makes it all the way there, throws another grenade in that one, takes out the Germans there as well. He then crawls up to the 3rd German machine gun nest, gets within 10 yards, grabs his grenade, pulls the pin, he's just holding down the spoon, winds back to throw it, and the German inside the nest shoots him with an anti-personnel grenade that hits him directly in the elbow. He was so close that the grenade didn't have time to arm itself, and it is just the blunt force trauma of a massive grenade flying at him that severs the majority of his arm. His men immediately leap up to help him, but he screams at them to stay under cover because he's worried that that arm that he's not in control of anymore is going to relax and let go of the spoon on that grenade and kill him and even more of his men, so he orders them to stay back. In his own words, and I quote, "I looked at my right hand and it was gone. The grenade was still there, clenched in a fist that suddenly wasn't a part of me anymore. I pried it out with my left hand and threw it." That grenade hits its target and
Oh, he wasn't even awarded the Medal of Honor until 2000 by Bill Clinton. That's crazy. Kind of makes sense though.
Daniel Inouye has just taken out a 3rd German machine gun nest, both left-handed and single-handedly, literally. He then gets to his feet and continues advancing on the German position, killing at least 1 more German with his Thompson submachine gun before getting shot in the leg and collapsing to the ground unconscious. He then wakes back up flat on his back, looking up at his men who are looking down at him, and he hits them with the hardest line in military history, and I quote, "Nobody called off the war," literally telling his dudes, quit worrying about me and assault the fucking objective.
Boys, we're gonna win this.
And as if that wasn't gangster enough, Daniel Inouye is then rushed to the rear where he receives emergency medical treatment and has to get his arm amputated in the field completely sober. He had already received too much morphine in the field, they couldn't give him any more without killing him, and they don't have anesthesia on the front lines in World War II, so they just had to cut it off while he was awake. While that's going on, Inouye's men and the rest of the 442nd go on a German ass-kicking extravaganza. Over the course of the next week, they liberate like 5 towns, a concentration camp, they secure key roads, they cut off German supply lines, they're forcing Germans to surrender left and right. The 442nd is advancing so fast that American supply lines can't even keep up, and they're forced to operate on whatever they confiscate from the Germans that they kill or surrender to them. Then on May 2nd, 1945, the German forces inside of Italy surrender. 5 days after that, May 7th, 1945, all of Germany surrenders, and World War II for the 442nd is over. When all was said and done, approximately 18,000 men fought in the 442nd Infantry Regiment. And those 18,000 men were awarded more than 18,000 medals, making them the most decorated unit in U.S. military history for their size and tenure. A few of those medals include 8 Presidential Unit Citations, which is like the Medal of Honor for a military unit, and they earned 5 of them in a single month. 21 Medals of Honor, 29 Distinguished Service Crosses, somewhere between 360 and 600 Silver Stars, 4,000 Bronze Stars, and 9,486 Purple Hearts. And that is the story of the Nisei, the Americans that made up the 442nd Infantry Regiment that had every excuse in the world to hate America and chose to love and fight for it anyways. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
You fought not only the enemy, but you fought prejudice, and you've won. Keep up that fight, and we'll continue to win. To make this great republic stand for just what its Constitution says it stands for, the welfare of all the people, all the time.
Interesting.
I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, Daniel Inouye, the main character. Yeah, so he made a full recovery. He survived World War II. Not only that, he goes back home, and you can't exactly be a surgeon with one hand. So Daniel Inouye gets involved in politics, graduates college, ends up becoming one of the government representatives for the United States territory of Hawaii. He is then instrumental in Hawaii becoming a state, and once Hawaii becomes a state, he then becomes Hawaii's state senator until he passes away in 2012. Now, I realize that I've just glorified a politician, and that's inevitably gonna rub somebody the wrong way for some reason, and to be honest, I've intentionally avoided looking at his political career while researching for this video. I genuinely have no idea right now whether that man was a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, something in between. I have no idea. But here's what I do know. Regardless of what his politics were, I have the utmost confidence that that's the type of dude that I want in a leadership position, because at the end of the day, I have absolute confidence that he wants what's best for the country and not what's best for his party, which is extremely hard to find in a politician. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really hope I did that story justice. See you later.
On the day I left to put on the uniform, and so he accompanied me on the streetcar, sitting side by side, and both of us looked.
Girlfriend around, my drug too severe, she gon' drown. Spin it, then I make it. She ain't spin around the whole spot. Ran through the front and the back, calling and pleading, seemed like we weren't even at home. Before they on me, I'm stuck in my way. I was thinking back in them days when I wasn't paid. A nigga almost didn't grab
studio. It's weird that they're watching Bob's Burgers. Just out of nowhere, we're watching Bob's Burgers.
Feel try to play me, but that shit don't make no sense. No, I'm an all-star player, this fuck nigga off the bench. Words up the heat, he was scared of shit, he was about to struggle. He was from the cross, so we let him be, but I bet he won't do that shit again. So what they think they telling me is I ain't gonna make more than 20 M. I'ma make 20 of them. 2020 with 20 more coming and talking about million. That's 60 and add another 40 piece, I'll have me 100 million. Another 100 after that, 100 millions, a motherfucking billion. Car pulling on the ass. I was 10 and you ain't seeing through the blast. I just bought my girlfriend a rap. My drug to Seville, she gon' drown. Spin it, then I make it back. Spin around that whole spot, then attack. Ran through the front and the back. Oh, then clear the scene like we weren't even there. Say you bad nigga, I'm Adolf. Get off my dick, stay off. Chop a fly, nigga, no lay off. Big ass blunts, law. Break her back, law. I'm a rock star, you a mall cop. Aim at his brim, shooting at him. Pull up on the scene, killing them. I don't got time for these niggas. I don't got time for the M's. I fucked that bitch from the back. These niggas sipping fake act. They do not know how to act. Get off my dick, bitch, get back. Come here. Bitch, come here. She gon' drown. Spin it, then I make it. Spin around that whole spot, then attack. Ran through the front and the back. Oh, then clear the scene like we weren't. Go, go.
I've heard plenty of rappers who can do both. Mike Shinoda can do it. He sings and raps.
Pussy. Yeah. Hey, Mills.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine. My name is Vic Shy, and
Watch some
this
scary
is
shit.
the Scare Score, where I break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. We are finally revisiting the Ju-On and Grudge franchise and giving them the proper Scare Score treatment. In this episode, I'll be going over the 2004 American remake of Ju-On, The Grudge. The film was directed by the Ju-On creator himself, Takashi Shimizu, and scared me
added
into
Americans.
endless nightmares as a child and adult. But how scary is it? Sit back and relax and join me as we explore.
This is one of the few movies where it's a horror movie that still actively kind of creeps me out to this day. The other one being like the original first two Jeepers Creepers movies. That shit terrified me as a kid.
The Grudge and tally up the Scare Score. Our movie begins with the classic opening texts giving us the rules of the curse.
Star Wars style.
Alright, that's enough. I don't want to get demonetized now. When someone dies in the grip of a powerful rage, a curse is born. The curse gathers in that place of death, and those who encounter it will be consumed by its fury. One fine morning, a man looks over a balcony, then back at his wife lying in bed. A beautiful wife and the lovely sounds of water and construction aren't enough to prevent Peter
it
from
seems so
gently
peaceful.
floating down onto
Well,
the
time to commit
pavement
suicide.
below, getting deleted, and leading us into the creepy opening credits. Opening credits which
Oh,
are
Sam
indeed
Raimi. No
creepy
wonder it was
and
even
super
older. Its
appropriate
creep
of an
factor still
early
holds up.
2000s horror film. Do not let Peter's non-Japaneseness fool you. The film takes place in Japan. A young woman named Yoko rides her bike through the streets and is the caretaker of an old woman named Emma, who doesn't do much talking. The house is a mess, and Yoko definitely has to earn her paycheck today. She hears a strange noise from a room upstairs and again coming from the attic directly above her. She goes into a closet leading into
this
the
part
attic and
scared
pulls
the
out her trusty
fuck out of me.
survival horror lighter, but it doesn't do much for her survival. This scene was
That
simple
doesn't
yet
scare you.
very
Holy
effective.
shit.
It went from creepy to terrifying, and the jump scare definitely got me. There are two things that make this better than the average jump scare. We can briefly see the ghost approaching Yoko before she is revealed, and she was just creepily waiting in the dark until Yoko noticed her. We meet our main character Karen Davis and her boyfriend Doug. The couple are
I didn't see her
studying in
approaching. I
Tokyo,
just saw
and
her
Karen
right
is a
behind, like,
volunteer
off,
at the
like,
care
with the
center
light
where
just
Yoko
barely on her.
works. Karen is given an assignment by a man named Alex, who is portrayed by Ted Raimi, brother of Sam Raimi, who served as producer on this film. Alex reveals that Yoko never showed up for work and thinks that she might be sick. Oh, she's sick alright. Karen is assigned to take care of Emma Williams, who suffers from dementia and sleeps all day, so it should be easy according to Alex. We get shots of the busy streets of Tokyo as Karen asks the
I've been to
locals for
Tokyo.
help in
It's
locating the house. Something
it's
to
awesome
note is
there.
that while we initially
Surprisingly,
see tons of people in
very
the streets, we gradually see less and less people
Like,
as
it's-
Karen
like, it's
gets
like
closer to the
90%
house.
humidity.
The film does a great job at making this seemingly normal house feel isolated from the rest of the world. As she approaches the house, we see Yoko's bike, confirming that she is indeed sick. She rings and knocks on the door several times and makes the fatal mistake of letting herself in. She enters the messy house and sees a pair of hands through the glass door. She meets Emma, whom we know isn't a woman of many words. She notices a bloody band-aid on her thumb and gets her all cleaned up. She starts cleaning around the house and hears a noise coming from upstairs. The noise is coming from a closet that Emma taped shut, which is how she cut her thumb. Karen starts to walk away but hears a cat meow inside of the closet. She opens the closet to find a journal and a young boy holding a black cat.
Question: if the taping it shut, do you think that would have worked? Because it seems they didn't bother the old lady until the tape came back down.
She notifies
Toshio.
Alex over the phone and he has her confirm that the boy is in fact Japanese. She puts her Japanese to the test by looking through the contents of the journal. The only word I'm able to read on there is Peter, whose torn photo is inside the journal. There is also a drawn picture of a man and a woman with hearts drawn across their chests. The man's face is drawn in, but the woman's face is fully covered by her long black hair. She then finds a torn photo of the boy and his parents, but the mother's face is missing. The boy is looking at her from upstairs and confirms that her Japanese is pretty decent when he says his name is Toshio. The phone suddenly rings, interrupting a pretty tense interaction. A woman named Susan leaves a voicemail to check on Emma, but the phone isn't there for Karen to answer. She goes to check on Emma, who is frightened and seemingly talking to herself.
I just want her to leave me alone.
Long black hair emerges from the top corner of the room and a woman's ghost appears directly above Emma. Karen comes face to face with the black spirit and looks on in fear as the screen cuts to black. This was a very well crafted scare scene where the scare level gradually kept rising. This scene actually reveals quite a lot about the plot and the backstory of the curse, which we will get to shortly. The next scene takes place in the past, prior to Karen's arrival at the house. The movie is structured similarly to the original Ju-on in non-chronological order and reveals bits and pieces of the story through the perspective of different characters. This way of storytelling works really well with these films, and I'm glad Takashi Shimizu decided to keep it for these remakes. We are reintroduced to Emma, her daughter Susan, her son Matthew, his wife Jennifer, and this friendly Japanese house salesman. As the family take a look around, Emma finds herself drawn to the creepiest part of the house, the upstairs bedroom with the attic. Susan goes upstairs and finds a small statue of a black cat and cats drawn into the wall. They find Emma staring at the ceiling as a creaking noise is heard coming from the attic. With the family occupied with the creepiness upstairs, the house salesman tries applying his plumbing skills to the bathtub filled with black water. This was a jump scare done right. The context surrounding it is truly disturbing once you find out what truly happened in the house. Satisfied with what they've seen, Matt tells them that they'll take the house. However, even if they decided not to, their fates have already been
screwed no
sealed.
matter what.
Sometime later, Matt and Jen are trying to fall asleep but hear a bunch of noise coming from downstairs. Jen automatically assumes it's Emma, who was sound asleep during the day. Jen expresses how lost she feels in Japan, and Matt asks her to give their new life a try. Well, they couldn't have picked a worse house to do it in. Jen goes shopping for a deliciously looking instant ramen bowl.
I wonder if that house is still there. Oh, they use two houses. They use an external shot for the house, and then the interior is a different location. Okay.
That rudely gets knocked over as she tries taking a nap. She thinks Emma made the mess until she sees a trail of small footprints leading outside. She follows a black cat up the stairs and it suddenly gets grabbed by a small pair of hands.
Who's there?
Not anyone who understands what you just said. We see small footsteps running into a room
they
and
do
Jen
not
follows
understand
them inside before the door suddenly shuts. Jen's chapter is probably the least
Aside from
scary
Kayak,
and most
she probably
cliched
has
of
some
the entire film. Matt comes home to an absolute mess and a terrified Emma. He finds Jen upstairs in bed, paralyzed and unable to speak. Matt gets jump scared by Toshio, whom I always thought looked a little silly in the American remakes. They try really hard to make Toshio scarier than he actually is. I actually think that Toshio is a lot scarier as his normal, real boy persona. Jen quickly passes away from I don't know what, and Toshio shows off to Matt how fast he can run around the room while simultaneously making cat noises. We briefly see a look of regret on the room while
Mars's eyes are in his throat. That's clever.
Simultaneously making cat noises. We briefly see a look of regret on Matt's face from having made a terrible real estate decision before he is killed off screen by the not so terrifying Toshio. The Japanese version of Toshio, which sounds kind of weird because he's still Japanese here, but you know what I mean. The Ju-on version of Toshio is way scarier than this one. They make him too ghostly white here and his facial expressions are way over exaggerated, just like SpongeBob every 5 seconds in the newest episodes. It just doesn't look right and takes away from the scare factor of this scene. Karen's boss Alex shows up to the house after receiving her earlier call. He finds Emma's dead body and Karen cowering in the corner of the room. The police arrive and the main detective named Nakagawa is portrayed by actor Ryo Ishibashi, who starred in everyone's favorite film, Audition. His partner Detective Igarashi is played by this guy. They question a rightfully shaken Ted Raimi who utters Yoko's name under his breath to further the plot. He mentions that she's been missing since yesterday and her bike is still outside the house. Nakagawa notices the house phone missing and follows the ringtone heard from upstairs. They find the phone in the upstairs closet, which leads them to the discovery of Matthew and Jennifer's bodies in the attic, as well as a human jaw. Karen wakes up in the hospital with her boyfriend, whose name I've already forgotten, sitting by her side.
I think it's Paul or something.
Your name's Doug?
Oh, it's
She
Doug.
tries telling Doug about the house, but only says, that house, there's something, and says absolutely nothing else. Detective Nakagawa questions Karen and shows her a photo of the family. She identifies Toshio, which worries him. His assistant tells him that they checked Susan's apartment, but she wasn't there. He says that the chain lock was placed as if she came home, but she was nowhere to be found. Where did she go? Well, the next scene in the film conveniently tells us exactly that. Sometime prior, Susan has a late night at the office. Horror movie logic says that she must be the only one left in the entire building. She leaves the voice.
Not in Japan. This whole place would be fucking filled, but it's The Grudge, which means it's probably a reality warp.
Mail that Karen heard earlier in the film, meaning that this scene was happening at the same time.
Hey guys, it's Susan. Matt, are you there? Pick up.
As Susan leaves the office, a croaking sound can be heard directly behind her. The croaking sound continues, accompanied by another strange sound. We'll get to what exactly that sound was later, but knowledge of what it is actually makes it so much creepier. The croaking sound gets louder and Susan retreats into the stairwell. Not the best idea. She receives a call from Matthew on her cell, but only hears croaking on the other end. The lights above her begin to go out as a ghostly woman crawls her way up the stairs. She tries retreating back into the hallway, but the ghost tries stealing her flip phone because those were hot back in the day. We briefly see the spirit's face before Susan takes off running.
Ooh,
She
I felt the
runs
shivers
into
go
the
up my
security
spine when
office
she
and
was on
tries
screen.
explaining what happened to the guard, who has absolutely no idea what she is saying. She watches the guard from the security feed, but he doesn't seem to find anything. The black shadow of a woman emerges from the ground and starts walking towards the camera. She catches a taxi ride back to her apartment complex, where she once again appears to be the sole occupant. As the elevator goes up, we see Toshio impressively make his way up each floor before the elevator. On her floor, she tactically slices the pie of every corner before entering her apartment. She closes the door and, just like the detective stated, slides the chain lock closed. She gets another call from Matthew, who tells her that he is in the lobby. He makes it to the 16th floor so fast I think he flew up there using a Nimbus 2001. He appears through the peephole but immediately disappears when she opens the door. The croaking continues even as the phone drops and the battery pops out, which is pretty terrifying. She cowers under her bed sheets and the fuzzy that was attached to her cell phone appears in her hands. She covers her mouth in absolute shock and terror, realizes she's not in Kansas anymore, and gets pulled into the abyss by the spirit. The entirety of Susan's chapter is absolutely horrifying from start to finish. From the moment she encounters the spirit, she is chased and terrified relentlessly. I feel terrible for her because she spent the least amount of time inside the house and arguably gets the worst fate in the film. Her chapter is pure horror that doesn't let up and kept me on the edge of my seat, clenching on my blankie the entire time. It also shows just how powerful the spirit is, as she was terrifying Susan, Karen, and Emma at possibly the exact same time. Sometime later, Karen is released from the hospital and visits Doug at his workplace. On a bus ride home, Doug can't seem to get a distracted Karen's attention, but this jump scare does. Now, y'all know I don't attention, but this jump scares well, but this was a ballsy one. It was totally unexpected and happens in broad daylight. She tells Doug what Bubba said right there on the side of that river. I want to go home. So since this is a remake of a Japanese horror film, it's only right that we have a scare scene while someone is taking a shower. This is the iconic scene that made me never want to close the shower curtains again. At this point, the spirits don't care what time of day it is, where you are, or about your privacy. This is what makes this curse so scary. At the care center, Alex is leaving the office and Toshio is sitting in the corner of the stairwell. He sees a woman slowly walking down the stairs who happens to be the missing Yoko, and we finally know who that missing jaw belongs to.
What happened, Yoko?
She turns around, revealing her horrifically disfigured face, and Alex screams in terror before being consumed by the curse off-screen. This was a decently scary scene, I guess. On one hand, Yoko's face is horrifying, knowing that she was being mangled off-screen, seeing the missing jaw, then finally seeing her face made for a...
Oh, never mind. I'm about to say, she's like, Kayako and Toshio, they've never really mangled anybody before, and then I remembered in Grudge 3, they tore a kid apart.
A very nice reveal, although Ted Raimi's terrified face is kinda hilarious and sort of makes him look like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker crying about Uncle Ben's death. Movie. We now enter the horror movie phase where the main character Google searches for information on their current predicament. A man named Takeo Saeki brutally deleted his wife Kayako, drowned their son Toshio, then proceeded to delete himself.
Which is different from the Japanese version because in the Japanese version, Toshio just Toshio just disappeared. But they decided, like, the same director made both the American and the Japanese version. He just decided for the American one, we'll kill them all.
In the same news article, a man named Peter Kirk gently flew off his balcony, softly landed on the ground, and never woke up again. This is the very first scene we saw in the film in...
Bro, hang on. 51, 31. He had already gone through his whole life before his wife was born.
Landed on the ground and never woke up again. This is the very first scene we saw in the film and chronologically takes place right after the Saeki house tragedy. For those not familiar with the series and its concept, the moment Takeo killed his wife and son, a curse was born. The curse kills all those who step foot inside of the Saeki house, but not before they are stalked and relentlessly haunted by the spirits of Kayako and Toshio. Kayako's spirit is known in Japan as an Onryo, a powerful spirit seeking vengeance for the wrongs they suffered during their lifetime. Kayako Saeki is one of the most terrifying on-screen Onryos, right alongside Sadako Yamamura from the Ring films. Detective Nakagawa takes a look at the security video footage from Susan's workplace.
I'm certain the reason why he can see it is because he's also cursed.
Watching the extended director's cut, not the one Susan watches before running off to Super Weenie Hut Juniors. The footage he watches is much more eerie and Kayako's face appears directly on screen. This was a brief and effective scare that also highlights a big difference from the original Ju-On in terms of how the scares are delivered. The American remake has a lot more generic horror movie sounds for dramatic effect. They don't take away from the scares, but they don't add anything to them either and are pretty unnecessary. Karen visits Peter Kirk's widow and discovers...
As I said, I think the only reason that the detective could see her on the tape, I'm certain nobody else who wasn't cursed couldn't see Kayako, but he could because he is cursed.
that Kayako was a professional stalker. Kayako appears in almost every one of his photos and was just as creepy in life as she is in death.
She was horny.
I really enjoy the way the story unfolds. The more story pieces are revealed, the darker and more disturbing the story gets. We now reach one of the most important chapters of the entire series, Peter's chapter. Peter was a college professor and Kayako Saeki was one of his students. Kayako fell in love with Peter and sent him numerous letters, the equivalent of today's double texting. One day, Peter shows up to the Saeki residence and makes the fatal mistake of stepping inside. He finds Toshio alone in the house and slumped over the bathtub. At this point, the curse has already begun and Peter's fate has been sealed. This scene reinforces my belief that Toshio is a lot scarier as a real boy than his ghostly version. He is deceptively innocent and now an instrument of the curse, almost as if he lured Peter to step foot inside of the house. Karen speaks with Detective Nakagawa, who explains the curse of the Saeki house. After the Saeki house murders, 3 of his detective friends mysteriously passed away. He believes that once the curse has grabbed a hold of you, it will never let go. He reminisces about his friends and does something he feels he should have done a long time ago. He walks into the house with 2 gasoline cans and plans on burning it to the ground. However, the curse has a different plan, which is essentially the same plan it has for everyone else. He hears the sound of water and a child crying from inside the bathroom. He sees Toshio passed out in the tub and tries to save him. Quick, someone call an ambulance.
But not for me!
Takeo Saeki appears behind the detective and drowns him in the tub, just like he did with his son. Karen returns to her.
Is Takeo also an Onryo attached to the house? Because according to this one, Kayako got her revenge. She killed Takeo. So is he also attached to the house, or is that just a manifestation of Toshio's rage?
Apartment and learns that Doug is on his way to the Saeki house to find her. She puts on her best pair of sprinting shoes but doesn't get there fast enough to stop him. Karen steps inside of the house, but instead of finding Doug, she finds Peter Kirk and Toshio. She is shown the events that took place the day Peter became cursed. They both look up at her and we hear the mysterious ringing sound. While it's never really explained, I think that when this ringing sound is heard, the curse is taking effect and influencing someone or something inside of the house. The ringing sound can be heard once more and Peter is drawn into Takeo Saeki's room. Takeo was an illustrator and several drawings can be seen in the room, with some of them being quite disturbing. Peter finds Kayako's face from the torn picture, and it's the first time we see Kayako's non-ghostly face clearly. We see several more photos, and Kayako's face has been eerily torn out of each and every one of them. He finds Kayako's journal, which reveals she was in love and obsessed with him. His photo falls out of the journal and he reaches for it at the same time as Karen. He feels her presence but is distracted by a more disturbing sight. He sees all of Kayako's torn out faces pinned onto a closet with blood on them. The diary pages begin to flip on their own, showing a date of June 13th, and Harry is magically sucked into the diary.
Wrong movie.
That's not right. Sorry, my script got mixed up. The diary pages begin to flip on their own and stop on a page with an eye seemingly looking through a hole. Peter opens the closet and Kayako's dead body wrapped in plastic falls from the attic. The terrified Peter stumbles away into another room and finds Takeo Saeki's corpse swinging and banging on the wall. Peter runs out of the house, probably wishing he had just taught English at an American university instead. Karen walks into the room and sees Takeo's corpse hanging from the ceiling by long black hair. Ghost Toshio is pushing his father's corpse against the wall, which is making the repeated loud thud sound. There is a great deleted scene where Yoko was cleaning up the house and heard this exact noise. This shows that the terrible events that occurred in this house are replaying themselves over and over again. Another deleted scene showed Matthew being possessed by the spirit of Takeo Saeki, interacting with his sister Susan. This scene was taken straight from Ju-on the Grudge and adds more context to how the curse affects those who live inside of the house. We then see a flashback of the events that took place and started the curse. Takeo found Kayako's journal detailing her love for Peter Kirk. Takeo was already an extremely jealous man, and this revelation pushes him over the edge. In a fit of rage, Takeo violently grabbed and pushed his wife to the ground. She attempted to get away from him, crawling down the stairs of the house in desperation. The enraged Takeo slowly stalked her down the stairs and then snapped her neck, causing her to make the infamous and terrifying croaking sound. This all happened in front of their son Toshio, who was watching from upstairs. I really enjoyed the Peter Kirk chapter, and I could...
I mean, like, yeah, they had to change it for for the American version, because in the Japanese version, Takeo kills her, possibly Toshio, because he believes that Kayako is not only in love with the teacher, but also cheated on him with the teacher, and Toshio was his kid. Doesn't work in the Grudge version because, well, this boy is clearly 100% Japanese. Excuse me. They decided to make him like jealousy maxed out plus extra.
Consider it to be the most important segment in the film, as well as the entire remake series as a whole. This is the moment where we understand how the curse was created and the truly disturbing context behind the entire events. This scene also shows just how powerful the curse really is. Just like Harry, Karen was transported to another moment in time. She wasn't just shown a flashback. Similar to its Japanese film counterpart, the curse is able to manipulate time and space. Even though it does so more often in the Japanese films, it was really cool to see it done in this film. Peter discovering Kayako's body was really well done and scary. The shot of Peter running out of the room through the reflection of her eyes is really effective. Kayako's body appears lifeless yet in pain at the same time, although I feel like the scene would have been so much better without the music and dramatic sound effects. I think that this scene could have benefited a lot from having more silence. It would have given more weight to the reveal of Kayako's body falling from the attic and Takeo's body thumping against the wall. The music starting during the flashback of Kayako's murder would have been perfect timing, as the music here really intensifies the entire moment and highlights the brutality of what happened. But overall, it was a really good reveal.
From what I've heard, the actress who
shocked
plays
Karen walks
Kayako
back
in
down
real
the
life is a very
stairs,
sweet
and
lady.
Kayako is briefly seen stalking her in the mirror's reflection. She finds Doug downstairs petrified from fear, as we are shown the other half of the flashback. Takeo dragged Kayako's body into his room and proceeded to kill their black cat Mar and their son Toshio in the bathtub. In that moment, Toshio and Mar's souls somehow became connected, which is why Toshio's ghost meows like a cat. Takeo put Kayako's dead body in a plastic bag and left her in the attic and Toshio in the closet. In the series' most recognizable scene, Kayako Saeki eerily crawls her way down the stairs wrapped in the plastic bag covered in blood. This is the exact sound that Susan heard in the hallway as she was leaving her office. The sound of Kayako crawling in the plastic bag.
Yeah, I was going to say it was the plastic
I told
bag.
you that the scene is way creepier once you know exactly what the sound is. Kayako crawling down the stairs is, in my opinion, just as iconic as Sadako coming out of the television. The way she is crawling mirrors the way she crawled down the stairs right before her death and sends chills down my spine just thinking about it. Actress Takako Fuji has always done an amazing job in portraying Kayako and scaring the crap out of me. As creepy as this scene is, I feel like it was done better in Ju-on the Curse and Ju-on the Grudge. Like in the rest of the film, this scene plays the dramatic sounds and music to a detriment to the scene. There is also a ton of cuts and close-ups that sort of take away from the scare factor this scene had in the Japanese versions. Karen tries getting away, but Kayako grabs a hold of Doug, who can't do anything but stare at Kayako in fear. Kayako crawls on top of Doug's body and successfully does what she unsuccessfully tried to do with Peter Kirk, take someone else's man. She then sets her sights on Karen, who unsuccessfully tries leaving out of the front door. Kayako disappears and everything in the house starts to shake. Karen grabs a lighter out of Doug's pocket and kicks over the can of gas. She turns on the lighter, but Kayako suddenly grabs a hold of her arm. That doesn't stop Karen from tossing the lighter and setting the cursed house on fire as Kayako slowly
If I'm
crawls
going,
on
you're
top
going
of
with
her.
me!
The authorities arrive and Karen is rescued from the house.
And great, now the firefighters and more police officers are cursed. Oh!
Oh, how scary was this iconic scene compared to the original? It's still pretty scary here, but I feel that the overly dramatic music and sounds really took away from a lot of it. There were also way too many cuts and close-ups. This scene felt choppier and more rushed, which is a real shame. With that said, Takako Fuji is still excellent as Kayako and still manages to make this scene chilling. The way she contorts her body as she crawls down the stairs and her facial expressions are on point. Her portrayal of Kayako has always been and still is the scariest thing about these films. Karen is taken to a hospital following the events at the house. We meet a new detective, which hints that Nakagawa's partner also fell victim to the curse. He says that they were able to save the house because, of course they were. In the film's final scene, she is left alone with Doug's corpse. Although I don't remember Doug having long, luscious black hair. Kayako suddenly appears behind Karen, making her infamous croaking sound as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the...
I got a B rating, that's not bad. Let's look at the sequel.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to...
Why is it so, like, grayish green? This was a weird era in... I look at that, based on Jew on the Grudge. This was a weird era of, like, horror movies. Like, if you look at Saw, it's, like, green and gray.
The Horror Mine. My name is Vic Shy, and this is The Scare Score, where I break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. We are continuing our coverage of the Grudge franchise by giving The Grudge 2 the proper scare score treatment. I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film while breaking down each scare scene and rating them on how scary they are or attempt to be. The Grudge 2 is a special film in the franchise. It is the final film in the series directed by creator Takashi Shimizu. It is also the final time that actress Takako Fuji appears as the iconic Kayako Saeki. But how scary is it? Sit back and relax and join me as we explore The Grudge 2 and tally up the scare score. Our movie begins with a very nice twist to the Columbia Pictures logo. When someone dies in the grip of a powerful rage, a curse is born. The curse gathers in that place of death. Those who encounter it will be consumed by its fury. Ah yes, I just love it when my horror movies start with an ominous threat. We see a woman cooking bacon for breakfast as her husband berates her. He should have just eaten the burnt bacon and toast because what he ends up getting is far worse. She pours the bacon grease on his head and gives him a good old smack on the back of the head with the frying pan. Ted Beneke falls flat on his face and just can't seem to catch a break no matter what show or movie he's in.
Damn.
His wife sits down emotionless and finally gets to enjoy her coffee in peace and quiet. The intro credits show us the events that created the powerful, vengeful curse. Husband Takeo Saeki brutally dispatched his wife Kayako after discovering she was in love with another man. He also deleted their young son Toshio and their cat Mar. These events created a curse known as a Ju-on. Anyone who steps foot inside of the Saeki house is doomed to suffer a terrible fate. The opening credits are very creepy, despite showing us what we already saw in the previous film. We are introduced to 3 new characters: Miyuki, Vanessa, and Allison, students attending the International High School in Tokyo, Japan. Vanessa and Miyuki are the popular girls in school, and Allison just wants to fit in. The girls take a trip to the cursed Saeki house because kids really lived on the edge before social media. The house looks more like a traditional scary haunted house, and we see the damage caused by the fire in the previous film. Miyuki says that it's the most haunted house in all of Japan. Despite knowing the dark myths surrounding the house, they all decide to step inside. Vanessa references the events from the previous film, stating that Karen killed her boyfriend inside of the house 2 years ago. Vanessa and Allison go upstairs while a strange sound catches Miyuki's attention. She goes into the bathroom and sees a tub filled with black water. Bubbles begin emerging from the water, making her wise up and get out of there. They go into what I believe to be the most cursed room in the house, Takeo Saeki's room. On the ground, we can still see some of the tape that was put up by Emma. They tell Allison about the murders that took place and that Kayako's spirit now lives in the attic. They peer pressure Allison to get into the closet, and she reluctantly agrees for the sake of being cool. Once
never fall
to peer pressure.
Inside, she sees Kayako's diary eerily opened on the page with the eye looking through the hole. Allison is too focused on the creepy diary to notice Kayako is actually behind her. They shut her into the closet and pull out a cell phone to capture her reaction. Allison begs them to let her out, but they aren't able to open the door from the outside. We get a Toshio jump scare and the girls outside hear a noise coming from the attic. Allison bravely keeps her eyes open the whole time, as I would have immediately curled up in a ball and pissed myself. Kayako's head descends from the attic as the "it was just a prank bro" moment becomes a terrifying reality. Vanessa and Miyuki run out of the house and Allison follows soon after. I have very mixed feelings about this scene. The biggest issue I have is that it's super cliched. The popular girls bring the girl who wants to fit into a haunted place to scare her, the plan backfires, and they all end up terrified. It's textbook cookie-cutter horror movie formula, which is sort of disappointing. With that said, it is executed very well. The atmosphere is super creepy, and Kayako's mere presence is enough to generate a very scary scene. Also, Allison seems genuinely terrified and her scream absolutely sells it. This should have served as the film's opening instead of the Ted Beneke kitchen scene. The film briefly takes us to California as we meet our main character, Aubrey, Karen's younger sister. Their mom tells her of the events that occurred in Tokyo and that Karen is in the hospital. She wants Aubrey to go find Karen, whom she obviously likes way more.
I'm not going. You are.
Which also translates to,
"Is there a captain here who still has the courage to do his lord's will?"
Aubrey heads to Tokyo and finds Karen in the hospital. Karen is surprised to see her sister and starts to freak out about the Saeki house. They don't get to have a productive conversation before Karen is restrained by the hospital staff. I don't think she heard you from the other side of the hospital. The movie now takes us to Chicago, Illinois, a setting deemed appropriate for a film about a vengeful spirit from Tokyo, Japan. We formally meet the lovely couple from the film's intro, Bill and Trish. Trish is moving into Bill's apartment and is introduced to their friendly neighbors, the Flemings. Trish is greeted by Bill's teenage daughter, Lacey, and his young son, Jake, who doesn't seem too happy about the prospect of a stepmom. We also get to meet Lacey's friend, Sally, who's pretty much a useless character in an unnecessary plotline. Everything about the plotline and
Oh, that's right. It moved because of one of the schoolgirls. That's right. I remember now.
Chicago
Spoilers,
setting brings the entire film down a lot. Almost everything that happens there isn't scary and really detracts from the film's main plot. Guess where the setting of The Grudge 3 takes place? Trish tries building rapport with Jake, who is the central character of the Chicago plotline. That night, he hears screaming coming from the hallway. He peeks outside and sees the Flemings escorting a terrified hooded girl into their apartment.
Hi, Mr. Fleming.
Mr. Fleming doesn't seem so friendly anymore. He closes the door to his apartment and we see Toshio sitting in the corner scratching his knees. Wow, how did Toshio get all the way to Chicago? The film thinks the answer and build up to that is way more interesting than it actually is. Back in the more
But how did he get cursed so fast? Was it just because she wandered over there?
important plotline, Aubrey meets a reporter named Eason. Eason is the one who rescued Karen from the house fire, something that is shown in The Grudge 1.5, an animated short film that takes place between The Grudge 1 and 2. While strapped down to her bed, the lights in Karen's room begin to flicker and she realizes that that's not a good sign. A hand suddenly grabs her wrist as Kayako slowly appears behind her. Karen escapes her restraints and tricks the guards into letting her escape the room. She runs into a group of hospital staff who look at her like they've never seen an American psych patient roaming the halls before. She reaches a dead end and Kayako slowly approaches her as the light.
Give a score for Kayako in that group?
Runs into a group of she reaches a dead end and Kayako slowly approaches her as the lights go out. She retreats into the boiler room and we get a decent jump scare that was probably inspired by the One Missed Call hospital scene. She makes it to the roof of the hospital, but so does Kayako, who decides she likes the ground level more than the roof. Karen dies right in front of Aubrey and Eason, who briefly sees Kayako attached to her dead body. The hospital scene was decently scary, although, again, very cliched and a standard horror.
Doesn't that mean the hospital's now cursed?
movie chase scene. The scene in One Missed Call that most likely inspired this one was way better. It was slower, creepier, and way more atmospheric, something I wish this scene could have had, as I feel that they really rush Karen's death. They also show Kayako a lot here. She appears numerous times in 3 minutes. One thing that made Kayako so scary in the Japanese films is that she rarely ever appeared, and when she did, it was much more impactful. We now see Allison sitting in school learning Japanese. I just noticed that the drawing on the board has a circled eye which looks very similar to the eye in Kayako's diary, as if she is always watching. Allison and Miyuki are still shaken by what took place in the Saeki house. Mar the cat walks between her legs, and Toshio casually appears underneath her desk. Her classmates make fun of her, but she knows she's not crazy because Miyuki also feels Mar and looks back at her, and she's not the only one looking back. So, this is my second time covering this film now, and I've probably the only not crazy because Miyuki also feels more and looks back at her, and she's not the only one looking back. So, this is my second time covering this film now, and I've probably seen it about 4 times. First time I noticed Toshio's eyes inside the desk was while working on this video, and I literally said, "Oh shit," out loud because
Same.
Because it caught me completely off guard. It's scares like this one that don't rely on dramatic noises and music that hit the hardest. Vanessa seems unfazed by what took place and is still bullying. Probably knows she's not crazy because Miyuki also feels more and looks back at her, and she's not the only one looking back. So, this is my second time covering this film now. Music, listen. Y'all know the drill. It wouldn't be a proper Asian horror film remake without a shower scene. While showering, Vanessa gets really confused because her hair doesn't normally shed like that, and she's blonde. She gets out of the shower and doesn't seem to notice that everyone else is gone. She looks at some clothes hanging that look eerily similar to a woman with black hair. Well, that's because they are. The urine flowing down her legs confirms that she now regrets pulling that horrible prank. This was a standard scare scene that doesn't really do anything special, but for being the mandatory horror movie shower scene, it gets the job done. The next scene involves Miyuki and her boyfriend Michael renting a hotel room to get a little steamy together. She nervously gets on the bed as Michael gives us the second shower scene of the movie. He gets out of the shower and crawls underneath the sheets with her. She soon realizes that Michael's hands feel more womanly for some reason, and that he's still in the shower.
To the mirror world with you.
Scare scene that doesn't accomplish much other than taking another name off Kayako's hit list. It would have been nice to see Miyuki get tormented a little bit more before her sudden death, but I understand that they just didn't have enough time given the multiple plot lines and shower scenes. Aubrey goes to Karen's apartment to cry and call their mom from her dead sister's cell phone. Isin reviews video footage of him interviewing Detective Nakagawa. Based on their conversation, this takes place sometime during the first film. During the interview, Nakagawa hears Kayako croaking behind him. Isin rewinds the video and pauses it, revealing Kayako's face. He then shuts off the TV to a cliche scare scene from a mile away. Aside from the obvious ghost appearing when the TV shuts off cliche, this was a really good scare. Seeing Kayako's face in the corner of the glass accompanied by her croaking was really unsettling. Isin visits Aubrey and tells her that Karen was being haunted because of the house and that the fire has made everything worse. They decide to go back to the house, but we have to sit through more of Jake's storyline for this one to continue. One night while lying in bed, Jake hears someone crying for help and banging on the wall. He sees the strange girl walking in the hall and follows her to the basement. He watches her dig into the trash can, possibly searching for reasons on why we should care about this plotline. The next day, he sees the girl taping up her window with newspaper showing that this storyline is supposed to resemble that of Izumi Toyama from Ju-on the Grudge. Trish has a phone conversation with someone named Nate that is overheard by Bill. He seems pretty out of it and clenches his keys so hard his hands start to bleed. I wonder what his reaction would have been if she was on the phone with someone named Walter. Aubrey and Isin arrive at the Saeki house that clearly looks like a movie set. Isin goes into the house on his own and immediately hears noise coming from upstairs. The closet is taped up again and we hear the slight sound of a woman crying inside. A deleted scene reveals that the girl crying inside is actually Allison. The house is playing more tricks with time and playing events that take place 2 years into the future. Outside the house, Aubrey sees Kayako staring at her from the window. As she approaches the house, she hears Karen's voice from the afterlife pleading her not to go inside. Good looking out, Karen. Too bad it doesn't work. The rules of
What, so now she gets forced in? What the fuck? I thought... Oh, yeah. We gotta force this curse on you somehow.
the curse are never truly established, but that was definitely cheating. I suppose they tried to justify this when Eason said the house fire made things worse. It seems that simply being near the house can be deadly. Eason rips the tape off and opens the closet to find Kayako's diary. He finds Aubrey downstairs and the two leave the house. This was an okay scene, I guess. It all just feels rushed because there's so many storylines going on at once. This scene could have easily been longer and much more effective. Vanessa gets called into the counselor's office with Allison to discuss what took place at the Saeki house. Miyuki is now missing and Allison is completely traumatized. She storms out of the room and Miss Dale follows after her, leaving Vanessa alone in the room. She tries texting Miyuki and starts playing with the lamp on the desk. The light stops working and she goes under the desk to plug it back in. She reaches for her ringing cell phone on the desk but touches Toshio's feet instead. She picks up the phone and hears a cat meow on the other end. Vanessa rushes out into the street as the Japanese people look on at the American woman running away with puzzling looks on their faces for the second time in the film. She rushes into a phone booth to call Miyuki, but Kayako answers the phone. Toshio suddenly grabs her legs as Kayako's hair grabs a hold of her entire body and consumes her. This was a disappointing scare scene filled with cliches and scares taken from every other Ju-on film before it. The only shocking thing about this scene is that Vanessa actually knows Miyuki's phone number by heart. Isen reads through Kayako's diary that she's been writing in since she was 8 years old. Her mother was an Itako, a spiritual medium that could help people speak to their loved ones. He contacts one of his expert friends named Mishima to help translate the diary. Kayako can be seen standing behind Aubrey but transform back into a pair of clothes when she turns around. Mishima reads the diary and gives them more insight into the rituals performed by Kayako's mother. They describe her as an exorcist who took evil spirits out of people's bodies and fed them to Kayako. That night, they decide that they are going to seek out Kayako's mother in the morning. At Isen's apartment, Aubrey shares a story about the last time she and Karen spoke, which ended in an argument. She falls asleep and Isen goes into his photo darkroom. He takes a closer look at a photo with a dark shadow in front of the
I feel like this one was actually pretty scary.
Saeki house. Loud creaking noises can be heard directly above him and the shadow in the photo starts to move. The water turns completely black as Kayako's head emerges from the water. Kayako stares menacingly at the terrified Isen and quickly grabs his face. She crawls towards him and consumes him off-screen. I thought that Isen's death was very well done. I didn't really feel like he was in danger the entire film, but the moment he stepped into the dark room, I knew he was done for. From the shadow moving in the photo to Kayako's head emerging from the water, this was a great scare that was much needed over an hour into this film. Aubrey wakes up the next morning and finds Isen's dead body. He grabs a hold of her and briefly turns into Kayako. As Aubrey retreats out of the room, we see all the photos have eerily turned into Kayako's face. This was a great scare with some really creepy visuals that I've come to expect from these films. We return to the unimportant storyline as Lacey visits her friend Sally. Sally doesn't look too pleased with her cheerleading outfit and downs a bottle of milk only to throw it back up immediately. Lacey leaves to go check on Jake and Sally drinks the thrown up milk. She goes into Jake's room and finds him hiding in the closet. He says he hid in the closet because Trish and Bill were fighting and he got scared. That night, he hears continuous banging from next door and goes to check it out. He invites himself into the Fleming apartment, which is a complete mess, resembling the Saeki house when Karen first entered it. He goes into the room where he hears the banging and sees the hooded girl cutting her hair with scissors. We hear scratching on the windows and two sets of eyes are seen staring at him from outside. He runs into Lacey's room to tell her.
So was the whole building cursed, or is it just that apartment? I'm still confused.
What he saw and she calms him down. In Sally's apartment, she just dies. I get what they're going for. The curse is starting to spread throughout the apartment complex, but come on. Bill wakes up to Trish cooking breakfast, leading us to the scene in the beginning of the film. Allison goes back into Miss Dale's office and says she wants to go home to America.
I wanna go home.
Miss Dale says she went into the house with the police and that there's nothing to be afraid of. The ghosts of Vanessa and Miyuki appear right next to her and Miss Dale reveals that she's already been consumed by the curse. I initially found this scene to be a little silly, but I've changed my mind on it. The reveal is done pretty well, especially the immediate shift in tone once Miss Dale says she's been to the house. The noise she makes, while not as scary as Kayako's death rattle, is pretty unsettling in its own right. Aubrey takes a train and bus to go meet Kayako's mother. On the bus, she sees an old man playing peekaboo with Toshio, who is sitting right next to her. This same old man does the same thing in Ju-on the Grudge. It's pretty funny how Aubrey realizes that Toshio is sitting next to her, but chooses just to ignore him out of fear. She locates the Tori from the photo.
It's one of those, if I don't acknowledge him, he can't hurt me.
And the journal, which leads her to Kayako's mother's house. Kayako's mother emerges from inside her house, camouflaged, and reveals herself like Wyvern on the Flying Dutchman. Aubrey asks her for help, and we see a flashback of Kayako as a child. She had a really dark childhood, as her mother would use Kayako as a vessel to store the evil spirits she extracted from people. This dives deeper into Kayako's lore and gives us more information on how she became such a powerful, vengeful spirit. Kayako's curse is so strong thanks to a combination of her childhood and the sheer brutality of her death. Her story is a really tragic one. Kayako's mother says that she is the reason she was killed and that the curse was Kayako's own fault, not because of the exorcisms. In my previous video on this film, I said that I didn't like giving Kayako this backstory and the reasoning behind why the curse is so powerful. I understand the reasoning behind it, and I appreciate the attempt at giving Kayako a deeper lore. However, I feel that what makes the curse so scary is that it was created through such a hateful and brutal event. Adding that Kayako was fed evil spirits as a kid sort of takes away from the whole when someone dies in the grip of a powerful rage, a curse is born thing, something that is advertised in the beginning of all the films, though it does somewhat explain Kayako's lack of social skills. She says that Kayako's rage will never end and will only spread and get worse. Kayako then appears right in front of her and consumes her own mom. I don't know why they chose to make Kayako emit a different noise, but it felt really weird. They should have just stuck with the iconic death rattle, and maybe this scene could have scored some scare points. Aubrey realizes that Kayako's mom is dead and that she didn't offer any useful information as to how to end the curse. Jake realizes that something inside the Fleming's apartment is negatively affecting the entire complex.
Yeah, in the third movie, the whole family is just based around the curse. Like, Kayako apparently has a sister, she gets killed in a rage, then she becomes an Onryo curse.
They come home to their apartment completely dark and a mess. Aubrey finally calls her mother to let her know about Karen's death. Her mom starts talking down on her, and Aubrey works up the courage to defend herself. She's not only worked up the courage to stand up to her mom, but to Kayako as well. She goes into the Saeki house and speaks to Kayako directly.
What do you want?
She then sees Karen walking up the stairs as the house is showing her the events of the previous film. She follows her upstairs, and the film annoyingly cuts back to the apartment in Chicago, which really takes away from both storylines. For the sake of organization, I'll focus on each individual plotline for their respective endings. Aubrey follows Karen down the hall, but there is a clear shift in atmosphere as she approaches Takeo Saeki's room. The shift in atmosphere was actually a shift in time, as Aubrey walks in on Takeo reading Kayako's journal. The house is replaying the tragic events that created the curse, but has replaced Kayako with Aubrey. Kayako wants Aubrey to suffer just like she suffered, and Takeo does to her exactly what he did to his wife. Aubrey crawls down the stairs, but her escape attempt is wasted and history repeats itself. Takeo grabs her head and hands her a degree for successfully completing the Kayako Saeki Ghost College with little Toshio in attendance. As she lays paralyzed on the floor, Kayako slowly approaches her and claims her soul. Having Kayako appear in her human form was an interesting choice and adds another complex layer to the curse. I believe that Kayako's spirit is not fully in control of the curse. While the curse was born from her brutal death, I think that the evil spirits she was fed as a child have a huge role to play in the curse's intensity and power. Kayako appearing in front of Aubrey in her human form possibly shows that Kayako is actually remorseful for all the lives claimed by the curse, but is unable to do anything about it. 2 years later, Allison, Yuki and Vanessa enter the cursed house. It is revealed that Allison actually saw the spirit of Aubrey, whose soul is now forever entwined with the curse and the house. Despite not being scary, I think this was a very cool scene that really plays on the strengths of the Grudge films. The way these films portray time loops and how the curse weaponizes time is original and pretty terrifying. This was a great conclusion to a storyline that would have been even better if we had more time to develop Aubrey as a character. Back in Chicago, Jake discovers that the curse has claimed his entire family. In one of the scariest moments of this plotline, he hears giggling coming from the bathroom and finds Lacey's lifeless body slumped over the tub. Trish appears inside the tub looking very creepy as Toshio's hands appear and pull her inside. He runs out into the hallway and comes face to face with the hooded girl, who is finally revealed to be Allison. The cursed Allison returned to America and brought the deadly curse along with her. Jake realizes that Allison is the one who cursed the apartment and calls her out on it.
It's all your fault! What did you do?
Allison suddenly feels that her hoodie is a little more snug than usual as we see an eye directly behind her. We hear Kayako croaking as her hands quickly pop out of the hoodie and pull Allison into the underworld. Again, Kayako shows she doesn't care about your personal space. Jake is absolutely terrified by what he just witnessed and decides it's a good idea to pick up the hoodie and immediately pays the price for it. In the film's final scene, Kayako grabs a hold of his arms as a new mythical fighter emerges, Grey Hoodie Kayako, as the movie ends. In an alternate ending, we get the more traditional Grudge climax as Kayako crawls her way down the apartment stairwell. At some point, she decides that crawling that distance is gonna take way too long and decides to stand up. She approaches Jake and Allison as the screen cuts to black. There is also a pretty cool epilogue involving Karen and Aubrey's mom. She receives a package from Japan containing her daughter's belongings. She finds Kayako's diary and is taken by the curse in a pretty brutal way. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was The Grudge 2. This film definitely had its fair share of problems, the most obvious one being the
Too many storylines. Too many storylines. Mutahar crashing out. Uh-oh.
So apparently something happened with Mutahar. WestJet made a video on it. I actually like Mutahar quite a bit. He's always been good to me. He's being called Indian Moist Critical, which I've never really thought about it until today. I didn't even know Mutahar was Indian, but I guess it's kind of true, huh? Okay, what happened to Mutahar, man? What happened? Why is his career over? Why is he unemployed now?
Massive day for the unemployed.
I will say, anybody who says that massive day for the unemployed is a derogatory, you're wrong. It's just funny, and it's a great video intro.
Indian Moist Critical just ended his career.
I will say, the only thing that Mutahar ever kind of fucked up on was letting, like, Redditors get into his head and make that video about, like, post-Nux clarity, given banger title. But you can't let these cretins on the internet dictate who you are and aren't allowed to be friends with. You cannot allow that to happen.
Dropped the video called I'm Sorry, but what did he do? He bought the Nintendo Switch 2.
Okay, so yeah, that's right. So Mutahar bought the Switch 2 after directly saying how bad it was for consumers and how he would not support the company, and then he immediately bought it. Now, thankfully, what I said was I know this is really bad for everybody, but fuck it, I'm a millionaire and I want to play Mario Kart. And so I did. So thankfully, you will not be seeing an I'm sorry from me. You will be seeing a I'm right, because that game is fucking goated. I can't wait to play the new Donkey Kong, man.
In a vacuum, nothing wrong with it, but then people went digging and turns out why I'm not buying the Nintendo Switch 2 right now. Nintendo Switch 2 is disappointing. I knew you were gonna get a day one, even though you said you would hold off.
Go!
Honestly, I took a chance at midnight launch near me. I kind of hope there's a day one exploit somewhere for these. Rog there, Reet. People did not like...
Minor spelling mistake! Impossible!
There's betrayal whatsoever from Mutahar. You know, he was the chosen one, and he willingly chose to betray his audience's trust.
And there I was,
This is
going on a
disgusting
midnight
behavior, guys.
release, and I ended up picking it, you know, just on a walk-in.
His audience said, do not redeem it, and there he is, 12.
Do not redeem! Do not redeem!
12 a.m. on a
This is
walk-in,
disgusting,
straight
guys.
redeeming it.
Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to sugarcoat or cut around this. I did, in fact, commit a hypocrisy. I made...
This is almost as dramatic as Jacksepticeye being diagnosed with autism. I mean, at this point, you have to kill yourself, right? You just have to. When you commit a hypocrisy, you have to commit suicide on the spot. Everybody knows it.
I made a mistake. I should have not bought this product.
There was literally no pressure, and he's folding. Like, the way he responds to criticism is worse than the honest criticism itself. We got a man pushing 40, apologizing to the internet for buying.
Pushing 40? You say pushing 40.
Itself. We got a man pushing 40.
That's not pushing 40. That's his early fucking 30s. Yeah, he turned 31. That's not pushing 40. I'm pushing 30, and that's because I turned 29 in 18 days. So I'm pushing 30. That's not pushing 40.
Apologizing to the internet for buying a video game console. This feels so inauthentic, and hands down, he's letting his audience dictate what he believes in. It's cringe.
Now, the reason why
pushing 40 is like 38 years old.
Believe I should actually apologize to my audience is.
Wait, this is a serious video? Wait, I thought this was a joke. Wait, he's actually giving a genuine apology because he committed a hypocrisy? Wait, is this like a Mr.
No, it's the cats. I thought it was some cat outside meowing.
Pokey level of freak the fuck out over being called a hypocrite and like crash the fuck out over something as small as that? Oh my God, he's serious. Oh no, that's great.
Yeah, people in this chat are even agreeing with me that 31 is not pushing 40. He's literally in his early 30s.
Crazy. Okay, hold on, let's keep going.
I didn't practice what I preached, you know? I said, you should vote with your wallet, and what did I do? I straight up charged my card and got the Switch 2.
Post Nintendo clarity. Buddha switched on us, literally. I can't believe he would switch to a different opinion. At this rate, Indian Critical might have a shot at dethroning Ludwig in the Backbone Olympics. I'm not under-exaggerating how upset people were. What was the point?
Let's be real. Mutahar is not nearly as weak as Ludwig. Let's not get there yet, guys.
In making that video, then, seemed like you were dead set on not getting it. You literally said you weren't buying one, though. Not trying to be dramatic, but I legit don't know if I can trust you in your videos now. Thanks for supporting the company that tries to sue Palworld into oblivion. Such a great move. Like, how are you going to position yourself as like a critic, like a hater of the product, and then be there first in line redeeming it? Truth be told, I got no problem with Canadian Critical. He seems like a decent guy, but he does seem to fold a bit under pressure to like Reddit and Twitter of all places.
He does.
I had the grave misfortune of looking at Reddit, and they're toasting him there too. He is never a man of his word, always pleasing the masses and crowd, just like Charlie.
You know, I could apologize.
Well, I never go to Reddit for anything. Like, Reddit is insane. It's actually worse than X in a lot of ways. Because they're all one side.
Apologize for
Do people have beef with Charlie? Why people got a beef with Charlie? I know he made that one take about like his shit-ass take on like trans kids. But like other than that, I feel like Charlie's got his head on straight.
Or more worse, but you know, realistically, it's just apologizing for purchasing the system that, you know, I kind of made a big hullabaloo about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you apologizing?
You know, I could apologize for far more worse.
You know, I might have bought the Switch too, but I could have been touching kids. He's trying.
Damn.
Yeah, I suppose that is that's a little worse. That's a little worse, but honestly, buying a Switch 2 is kind of like a gateway for touching kids. You know, it makes it easier. Yeah, so honestly, he's only like one step away from it. To be completely honest, man, this is over, man. Mudahar's over, man. Mudahar's over.
Trying to like gaslight us or something. Like, it doesn't matter.
You want to come over and play Mario Kart World with Uncle Muda? That's what a crazy jump. I want to make this very clear. I still think Muda is great. I'm just taking the piss a little bit.
Out, he really is some ordinary gamer. All of this over a kid's console with Mario Kart. Like, I truly can't be bothered anymore. Let me make some money real quick. Are you a loser playing Valorant all day and have no friends? Well, no worries, because I got the solution for you. This video is sponsored by Polybuzz.
Yes!
Polybuzz got a plethora of AI chatbots you can talk to, ranging from anime to like human recreation.
That's amazing. I'm going to use code JET77 right now by using the link in the description. Polybuzz, JET77. That's great, dude.
Some premium features for free. Oh, and if I didn't mention it, the app is free, and you're even able to use the bot I created.
Free?
Lol. You wooed me, bro. I'm literally just their perfect little clone. Thank you, Polly Buzz,
That's
for
amazing.
sponsoring today's video.
That's
Life's
so
a
good.
sandwich. No matter how you flip it, the bread comes first, and, you know, rent was due.
But in reality, I just wanted to cover things from an objective perspective. I wanted to show that there were some games, Cyberpunk 2077, which worked out of the box day one.
I swear to God, I genuinely see a timeline where he gets bullied by Reddit and then he has to return his Switch too. I'm no expert on this by any means, but isn't like being a hypocrite really, really frowned upon even religiously, like Christianity, Islam? I think that's like a bad thing. Personally, I think on YouTube, the most important thing is authenticity. You know, don't treat your audience like idiots. You guys know I'm a...
Listen, I understand being called a hypocrite is bad, right? It is. Being hypocritical is bad, but the problem is, to be real, is it really the hill that you want to like pretend that your career is dying over? Not really, right? Like being a hypocrite, just say, fuck, sorry, my bad, guys. Then just go return the Switch and say, yeah, I fucked up. I need to stand on business, and just return it. Bada bing, bada boom, you're good, right?
Yeah. I mean, a video game saying you're buying a console and saying you're not going to buy a console, and yeah, that's pretty hypocritical. It's bullshit, but it's just a console.
It's really that easy. It's so easy. It's so easy to do that, bro. Like, you can come back from hypocrisy 100%. You just can't come back from other shit, like touching kids.
Scumbag, and I'd promote gambling to you.
The thing we hate is this practice what you preach. That is the issue with this, though. Well, I mean, obviously you should. Committing a hypocrisy isn't good, right? But you can easily bounce back by acknowledging your mistakes, and then just like all Muda has to do is get rid of his Switch. It's really that easy.
There's nothing I can say to I feel like ultimately I do have to apologize for that, and that's what I do.
This is actually the most embarrassing thing I've seen, Loki.
I will say, though, yeah, I mean, I feel like issuing an apology for this is insane.
He feels so flip-floppy, and these apologies to me feels like he's just kind of doing damage control to keep his audience. And you know what they say, right?
But it's like damage control towards like nobody. Like I really don't think. I'm gonna go check. I don't think there was actually any damage control that I could be totally wrong. I'm gonna pull up the stats live. Well, this is very interesting. So if you go to Mudahar's channel, it shows that he'll gain like 10,000 subs every single month. No subs, 10,000 subs. No subs, 10,000. No subs, 10,000. No subs, 10,000. Something happened in December December twice where he lost 20,000 subs. And then something happened again in March 24th where he lost 10,000. But other than that, it's remained pretty constant to where Social Blade can't even detect it. So, I mean, clearly something bad happened in December and March, but nothing was affected on his analytics whatsoever because the sub growth or loss wasn't even big enough to even make a dent. That was most likely the Nux drama. I mean, shit, maybe. But it doesn't really seem like he's losing any of his audience whatsoever. He just really easily gets gaslit by his Redditors and Twitter, not the first time. Yeah, I know that 100%.
Actions speak louder than words, and just return the Nintendo Switch 2 if you want to stand by your morals. No, your audience doesn't want a 12-minute video of you coping and justifying your purchase.
And, you know, you don't want to watch my videos anymore because you don't like me anymore because of the Switch 2 stuff, then, you know, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to wave by. We're going to have to wave by at each other.
Why is he guilt-tripping us now?
All I can really do is say I'm sorry. That's really all I can do.
Wrong. Go return it right now. Sell it on Facebook Marketplace.
You know, I can't just whip myself or do something.
Dude, I like the Switch 2, but I could go return it right now. This is such a weird issue to be stuck in. Brother, all of this negativity that you think exists, it can just go away. Like, wait, this is so stupid. Just give your Switch away to an audience member. Bada bing, bada boom, you're good. What is this? Why are we being so dumb about this?
Something to.
He really likes Mario Kart? Oh, that's fair. Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, just say, you know what he could have just done? Just tweet out, I lied, Switch 2. You know, like, there's so many ways to get around this. I feel like apologizing makes this so much worse. Like, it makes it so much worse than it actually is.
Self-flagellate myself just for the camera at this point.
You're already doing that. This is like a humiliation ritual. You're talking for 12 minutes, apologizing for buying a game console. I really do feel like a bad person in this. I don't want to send you guys mixed signals. Come on. Obviously, he's apologizing for the hypocrisy and whatnot, but like, it is kind of funny when it's actually over if you know, boil it down to brass tacks. I didn't know this was a thing, but apparently there's a Nintendo Reddit and they posted Mutahar on there. I think the only justification for this is if you're a Mario Kart super fan and you want like a nice experience. But other than that,
Mutahar, you need lessons in like crisis control because you just made this so much worse than it needed to be. It's really such a not big deal. It's actually fucking crazy.
I'm like zoning out. I'm exhausted, so I think I'm gonna call it right now. Probably be back either